What's the time? You're going to say that, aren't you?
Yes.
Okay. Evening, everyone. We're about to resume the regular council meeting.
That the regular meeting of council of July 20th, 2023 resume at the hour of 4:01 p.m.
Can I have a mover, please? We don't need a mover for that, do we? Well, mover. Councillor Novakis. Deputy Mayor Tellier. All in favour? It's carried. So we go to 8, which is delegations. St Thomas Elgin Immigration Partnership. Teresa Hontar. Welcome.
Hello, it looks like I requested a great day to come and speak to the community. It's a great turnout here. Perfect. So I wanted to introduce myself. It's been a few years since we've had the opportunity to come out across the county. This is my 4th delegation for the week, and I have one more today in Bayham, on the other side of the county. So I unfortunately won't be able to stay and listen to what everyone else is having to say, but I absolutely appreciate the opportunity to come before you today. So first thing I wanted to do was talk to you about what the St. Thomas Elgin Local Immigration Partnership is. We often short form it to STELIP because St. Thomas Elgin Local Immigration Partnership is a little bit long to continue saying. We are a federally funded project funded by Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada. And we began our work here in St. Thomas and Elgin County in 2011. In that year, we conducted community research to understand the needs to support the integration of immigrants. And over the last 12.5 years, that's what we've been working on. Something that's important to know is that we are a community capacity building project. So we don't work to directly serve immigrants. We have 2 local settlement service offices in our region, and that's one in housed in St. Thomas, but they are able to serve clients out here at the YWCA, and another one called Mennonite Community Services that focuses on the east of the county. Our work is predominantly to work with the community to do projects to better help the integration of immigrants. So in that way, we do community capacity. My work is quite abstract, and it takes a long time for people to conceptualize what it is that we actually do. The vision of the St. Thomas Elgin Local Immigration Partnership is that St. Thomas and Elgin County communities will have a culturally diverse, welcoming, caring, and inclusive community that will retain current residents, welcome newcomers, and provide them the opportunity to successfully integrate, contribute to, and benefit from social, cultural, and economic inclusion. For us, it's really important that as we have new people settling in our community, they become full members of our community, which means that they're not here only to get some social aspects out or to share some cultural pieces. We really want them to have the full experience as most of our residents would have. So currently, we can skip through to the 4th slide, please. So currently our council comprises 18 agencies from across the county. And if you can see the list, we have a really great cross-sectoral representation. We have agencies that represent health, we have employment agencies, we have some of the social agencies as well. And we're always looking to expand our membership if there's people who would like to participate and attend and support the development of our work we do. The work that we do is in 5 different priority areas. You can go next. And I'll just briefly give a quick overview of what those 5 priority areas are so you can understand the scope of our work. The first one is called workforce development and employer support. So this looks at 2 sides of the coin when we're thinking about employment. First are the newcomers and immigrants who come to our region ready to work. Do they understand our labor market? Do they have the skills that they need to integrate? And then the second piece is, do our employers understand the nuanced differences of hiring someone who may be internationally trained or may have some of the barriers that some newcomers might have? So there's a lot of different projects that are currently being undertaken in this area. One thing I would like to mention is on August 3rd, we are hosting an event to support attraction and retention of immigrant workers. And that's a free event, and it's 3 hours, and it is housed in St. Thomas. But that event provides employers the opportunity to get access to consultants, and that can go on beyond the event to help them change the way that they do their work and to adapt to the growing changes in our workforce. The next priority area is community readiness. And this says, are our communities ready? Do they understand what diversity means? Do they understand the different cultures that might be coming and settling into our communities? When we have people who come from a culture that people may not have had an experience with, do they know how to welcome them? Do they know how to work together and interact and make them feel comfortable in our regions? So under this priority, we've done a lot of different campaigns. We have I'm happy you're my neighbor sign. We encourage people to come and share. If you have some neighbors who may have moved into the area from outside of Canada or outside of the region, it's a nice, really subtle way to say that we're happy that you're here. Under equitable supports, we look at the different supports that are offered in our communities. So this has everything to do with the social services, but also like our libraries, our community centers, and saying, are the way that they're providing services accessible, and do they keep in mind the little differences or the challenges that newcomers and immigrants might have? Under education, we're looking to see if newcomers understand and immigrants understand the differences in Canadian society and culture, and how things and how they can access that. We also try and support the parents who have immigrant children in schools to understand how they can be part of the school system. And finally, civic and social inclusion. We're trying to ensure that our immigrants understand how they can become civically and socially included. So looking at volunteer opportunities, looking at once they become Canadian citizens, do they understand that they can have a seat at the table here? So really try and really enmesh them into the community. So all of the activities we do are under there's 5 areas. Not all of them are undertaken by myself. We are part of a 2-person team. It's me, myself, and a communications person. While we do a lot of projects, a lot of it is run by the partners that I mentioned previously. I did want to specifically talk about a few of our projects. So you can go over to the next slide. So in the last few years, we started to do more research initiatives. And the first one we did was at the tail end of COVID, where we tried to measure the experiences of discrimination in our community. And we did a study similar to 8 other communities in Southwestern Ontario. And what we did was a random sampling. So people were phoned, and if they passed a screening, were invited to do an online survey. And what we found through that research was that 7 in 10 immigrants had experienced discrimination within our community in the last 3 years. While it ranged by experiences, the things that we found were most striking were this was within workplaces, but this was also in neighborhoods in our community spaces like sidewalks. So this means that if people are experiencing this, they're less likely to want to be part of our communities. So it's something that we really need to address. And while we were presenting this research, we had a lot of questions of saying, well, what exactly is it? People generally did have a desire to change their ways, but it's very difficult to understand what it was with very general information. So we undertook a second piece of that study, and that's currently underway, and we're still recruiting participants for that. And what we're doing is we're doing 60-minute to 90-minute interviews. And by we, I mean, it's being undertaken by Western. It's an ethically approved research project. We have nothing to do with it other than promoting it and trying to get people to take it. So what we're doing is looking for people who have experienced discrimination in any form. What we're finding is often people expect that discrimination needs to be a very egregious act. We're looking for people who may have been part of inappropriate jokes or derogatory language, things that sometimes slide by when we have communities that are not used to having people from different races and different cultures. So we're looking for even small experiences that can help us understand what it is that's happening and help us develop projects to try and address some of those issues. Last month, we also undertook an immigrant survey, and this was a survey that began in Waterloo region, and this is their 4th time that they've implemented it, and it's meant to be a biannual, as in every 2 years. It's always confusing if it means twice a year or every 2 years. Every 2-year survey, and it goes to try and understand what services are being accessed, what the experiences are like, and if there's things that can make the community better for them. It's something that I'm starting to work through the research, and I will be sharing those with the counselors here. It also asked questions like, what can be done to improve the community? So it's really valuable information that will help guide some of the decisions that you make. Next slide, please. Another project that we recently undertook and are excited to launch in the community is a planning events that are culturally inclusive, a guidebook. We have this, it's available currently on our website. And what this is meant to do, it's not a checklist. It is meant to help people who plan events that are open to the community to engage themselves in fully understanding and in trying to explore topics and in considerations that might help make them make subtle changes to their events to make it more welcoming to people from different cultures. And it goes from everything for scheduling considerations, looking at themes, decorations, costumes, venues, and all of those pieces. And it's meant really to just start the process of helping people try and understand how to encourage and engage immigrants and newcomers to attend and be part of the community. The next piece that I wanted to talk about is back in 2012. So in our second year of our project, we developed a community resource. We found that there was a lot of directories that were available. You can go to the next slide. And a challenge with directories, especially for someone who isn't used to the Canadian system or a system within a community, is that you don't know what you don't know. In a directory, you see a name and you have to ascertain what that service does based on a name. So we created a more in-depth explanation under subheadings to say this is what this agency does and this is what you can go for support. And also here are other pieces that might fill in to help your experience of navigating the Canadian system a little bit easier. So we've gone through and we've updated that. So we have a paper copy, if you know where your binder is. I acknowledge it's 11 years since we dropped it off, but we do have online versions, which we would invite the municipality to share on their website as well. Next slide, please. So what I did also want to do is I am absolutely a numbers person. I put the census on my calendar, the release dates. So I wanted to share some information and help you understand what the numbers mean through the lens of immigration and integration. So the first things first is the population of West Elgin, which is quite a large geographic area, is 5,000, just over 5,000 people. And this is from the 2021 census. So this is as of May 2021. It's probably shifted a little bit in just over a year from now. But this was from the year previous, you saw a very meager population growth and you were able to increase that a little bit. So it is really nice to see that you're going in the positive direction. So you're seeing a 1% population growth. We did see in the center of our municipality a much higher population growth, but this is definitely a really great news for us. One thing that is of concern is the median age of population. So I think that West Elgin is the oldest community in Elgin County. So your median population is 45.3, whereas Ontario is 41.6. What this means is that your workforce what this typically points to is that you have an older workforce, which means that it would be harder to find work. 40 is by no means an old age. I think anyone who's around that age, but we're looking typically at numbers under 40 for the median age of your population. So looking a little bit more at immigration, so we can go to the next slide. We have this region, it has seen quite small numbers of immigration over the years. So overall, we have just over 4.5 or just around 4,500 immigrants. This is anyone who was born outside of Canada. It could be people who arrived here 90 years ago. But there is definitely about 10% of your population represents people who were born outside of the country. When we're looking at and that represents people who came from places like Portugal, United Kingdom, the Netherlands. I don't think that those three would be surprising to anyone in this room. You also have growing and getting larger population of Asian countries, and it's all Asian countries. They're all lumped together to give you 35 individuals. And then also Mexico is starting to get a little bit larger. But what for me was really interesting is the only geographic place that came out in your recent immigrants, which means people who arrived between 2016 and 2021, is Africa, which means that you're absolutely seeing people who look quite different from the host population. So it's something to really be cognizant of. Your visible minority number is 2.8%, whereas in Canada, it is 26.5% of our population and 34.3. So people who come to West Elgin are going to have a much different experience. The immigrants who identify as visible minorities will also have the potential to feel very isolated in their community. So it's really important to ensure that the spaces are very welcoming, and the people who might feel a little out of their comfort zone feel comfortable when they come into our spaces. You can go to the next slide. When we talk about immigration, Canada has a large number of pathways to come, and it's nearing probably around 200. So we don't go into that nuanced detail, but typically we have 5 different areas or 5 different streams that we focus on. The first one is the economic immigrants, and those are people who come to Canada based on the point system, which is something that is the most understood and most focused area. It's the area that Canada strives to bring the most people under, and this has to do with your education, your work experience, and your language ability are the main categories. There's other pieces for age and all those things. And then the second class is the family class. So this is people who are sponsored by either their parents, their children, their siblings, or some sort of family member. Often this class is deemed to be less important, but for me, I think it's a really important measure. If you have a lot of people coming into work, and we're currently in a childcare crisis in our community, people who live near their parents are able to use their parents or their elderly family members or even their siblings to have their children, or to have someone to watch over their children. If you immigrated here and all of your family is in a different country, you don't have that social support network. So there's definitely a lot of importance when we're thinking about reunifying families and the impact it could have. It might mean someone who is highly trained is able to work full-time hours instead of part-time hours, which will have a huge impact on the way that they integrate. The next piece is the refugees, and those are people who there's very many and very diverse piece of refugees who come into Canada. This would encompass government-assisted refugees and also family and privately sponsored refugees. The Ukrainians who recently came are not considered refugees, they're considered temporary residents, so they wouldn't be counted in any of these numbers and on this chart. And then there's another category called other immigrants, and those come under very specialized programs. So for a region, you have almost 50% of all of your immigrants are economic, but when you're looking at your recent immigrants, it's mainly the family class, with some of them also coming from the refugee class. So you're not necessarily tapping into the focus of Canada's immigration stream and getting the people to come to this region to be part of that workforce. So the next slide. Another piece that's really important, and sometimes it helps us understand a little bit more the secondary migration. Oftentimes people will come to Canada, settle in a community that they know, usually Toronto or Vancouver, and then they will secondary migrate. They'll move to a different community. So these mobility numbers are something that they're starting to share a lot. So the 2 charts here, the one on the left says 1 year before the census, did people live outside of West Elgin? And if they did, then they're counted as a migrant. So we had 290 individuals of your, I think it was 4,000 that lived outside of the community and moved in within 1 year. But when you extrapolate that to the 5-year, you have 1/4 of your population did not live in West Elgin. And I think that this is a common number that we're seeing across the county. We have 25%, which is higher than the rates in Ontario and in Canada, where they're seeing around 21.7 in Ontario and 22.2 in Canada. So we have more people who are moving into our communities. So it's something that's really interesting to look at and to say, we know that people are finding this. We know that there's a lot of movement within this region. So how can we use this to attract more people who can support the growth of this community? So the next slide. So I did want to just reiterate that this, in the next 2 years, from 2023 to 2025, the immigration levels that are planned federally are 465,000 individuals a year. So we're looking about 1.5 million people almost over those 3 years. And they are primarily being targeted under the economic immigrant class, which means they're coming here because they're highly skilled, they're highly educated, and they're ready and willing and wanting to work. So it's a really great opportunity for some of the smaller communities who haven't been able to fill some jobs and to fill some of those pieces to try and attract and get people to come to our region. We know that Canada has made a commitment to try and support some of our smaller communities. And it's really exciting to see that there is this renewed like remembrance that we have communities outside of those larger areas. There is a shifting focus outside of the GTA, and understanding that these smaller communities do require some rejuvenation in terms of population growth. So what I wanted to share with you is there's a resource that's available, and it's free to access, and it could be a really great and powerful tool for you. So you can go to the next slide. And this is a resource that's coming out of Western University through the Pathways to Prosperity Network. And it's a toolkit to help you look at 19 different characteristics that are mainly municipally focused and run characteristics to understand how you're doing in them, how you fare, and you can make comparisons to other communities. And then you can use these to attract and to market this community to other immigrants. So I would hope that this is something that the community can do to try and understand what it is that you're doing right in terms of needs of immigrants. And typically what this means, if you're building a community that's welcoming and caring and inclusive, it absolutely benefits immigrants, but on a whole, it benefits the whole community. We're not talking about doing very many specialized things. It's saying, how are your community services? This is my 4th delegation this week. I have one more tonight. And I've heard so many times the people who are talking about baseball diamonds and those community assets that give our community members a place to interact and to be part of neighborhoods. And those are the pieces that would come out in this report and in this practice. So it's a free resource that you can use. I would love to support you trying to understand how you fare, try to help you navigate that. It's something that I encourage you to do, and hopefully we can take it to market, to attract people to know the incredible pieces, incredible life that you can have here in West Elgin. So I'm going to leave my presentation there. We have a lot of different initiatives we're working on. These are just a few that are timely, and I really think that could really support you as you make decisions as a council. I encourage you to check out our socials, our website. We have a newsletter that goes out quarterly. You can keep up to date with some of the work we're doing. But most importantly, I invite you to partner with us if you have some ideas or some opportunities for us to do some projects together. We welcome that, and we just look forward to being part of our community. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much for that presentation. Is there any questions from council? Seeing none, but it's very interesting and very true.
Deputy
Mayor.
That's okay. Just wondering if you've ever looked at the side, or could we look at educating people? Like, I came from the GTA myself, so I saw all different backgrounds and grew up with that. And then I come to a community here, and there's not a lot of diversity now that I see it coming back in, as you said in your stats show. And I just see raising my own children, they don't understand the different backgrounds and what's going on. Is there any way of connecting the newcomers and the people that have grown up here and different things to educate each other?
Yeah, so
do something like that already.
So the YWCA Settlement Services, they received funding and they just are starting to launch it. It's going to take a few years to ramp it up, but it's, I like to call it a social mentorship project. And so what it does is it takes established people in a community and partners them with immigrants who have said that they want to be part of the program. And it's meant so that there's a warm connection, someone you can have a relationship with and ask some of those questions. Through that project, it's intended that once a month there will be like an organized gathering, and it could be anything like there's a festival happening, let's go into the community, let's check it out, or it could be just come over to my house and have dinner. So it's something that they're slowly ramping up, they're starting to work on, and if there's an interest to get people recruited and connected here, I think it would be a really great opportunity for the municipality to be like a part of that, to help with the recruitment, and then the YWCA could take on the training and the facilitation of that. But absolutely, I think it's a great piece. One of the biggest struggles when it comes to connecting with new immigrants who arrive in a community is that because of the strict privacy laws in Canada, it's not like we get a notification there's someone new moving in. We often rely on them to navigate the services themselves and find them. So it's really about trying to connect them and share with them where they can go to get resources so that they have that opportunity to connect. So people often come to me and it's like, oh, I want to connect with newcomers. I was like, I try, but I don't necessarily know every single person who comes into our community. So that is something that we're trying to understand how we can do better, whether it be through landlords or realtors or some other piece, but it's definitely a privacy issue. So
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
great. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I
thank you.
don't want to keep you any longer. You're going to have lots of great things to talk about. So I hope to see you soon.
Yeah, we've got a busy night. Thank you. So we're going to go straight on to 8.2, Rodney Park Revitalization Committee, and it's Ann Smith and Elizabeth Sebastian. If you would, please.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank council for taking the time to meet with us regarding a new project that we hope to introduce and to move forward with regarding the revitalization of the Rodney Park. First of all, I'd like to have Jen introduce herself. Jen is here in the blue, and she is, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Jen Living. I've been part of Rodney forever. And I work at Jennings Funeral Home.
And Elizabeth Sebastian.
And I'm Elizabeth Sebastian. I have lived in the municipality since 1979 on Fleming Line, and my husband is Graham Warwick, who was a former member of council and mayor for a while. And I worked, retired 3.5 years as Director of Social Services for St. Thomas and Elgin.
Now, I guess the first thing that I'd like to cover is the reason why we feel that Rodney needs a new park. I have a special needs grandchild. She was born with developmental coordination disorder. She never crawled or walked. At age 1.5, my daughter called Kids Ability in Guelph, and Julianne had an occupational therapist and physiotherapist to teach her to walk. I watched her as she grew up, struggling at parks that we went to because she could not climb. And it was extra hard for her because her little sister was able to do everything that she couldn't do. So she is now 12 years old and still struggles with physical activities. So this project is very, very close to my heart. So what steps we have taken so far is May 30th, we met with Teresa, Bill, Jenny from Dennings, myself, and Elizabeth. We discussed different dreams and possibilities for the park. June the 12th, we met with service clubs representatives, some having 2 reps at each meeting, at the meetings. Marcia Kalita of the Optimist Club explained a lot of the process that their club had gone through. All members that were there were excited and in total agreement with this project. July the 4th, we met with service clubs reps, and Ken Neal, who was also on the committee with the Optimist Club for their park, did a walk around the park in Rodney and discussed 3 areas in the park that possibly would be suitable for the project. We had talked about different stages of construction to be completed over a number of years in separate Trillium grant applications. Stage 1 being the accessibility playground, stage 2, the accessibility washrooms, stage 3, perhaps a pavilion, stage 4, a splash pad, and stage 5, a running track. The Quanians Club of Rodney has offered to take the lead in doing a Trillium grant when one becomes available to start for the new playground. The Optimist Club, in just a little bit of figures from them, they spent $180,000 on their playground, but because of inflation, we have set a goal of $250,000 for the new accessibility playground, which is stage 1. We will be making a core committee of 5 people to lead the process, and we'll report back to council when we have information. This is just a short presentation, and we'd like to keep council to look forward and keep council informed as we go on. So we hope to move forward, and I'm going to ask for Jen to come up, and then Liz will talk.
So not just Anne's granddaughter has issues. We have a fair amount of people around here, families with children that there's nothing in Rodney for them to go play safely and have the accessible playground. Instead of traveling to West Lauren, we want to keep the families here in Rodney, like to come to the park there. And there's a few of the women that I've spoken with that would like to join and add in their background on what they could use for their children to make the park more accessible and fun for everyone.
But I just want to give Anne full credit. This was her idea, her inspiration, and then she recruited Jen and I to help out. And so I'm quite willing to help, especially with the administrative end of it, you know, helping with the application for Trillium and the request for proposals, things that need to be done down the road if council approves this. But mainly we're here. The purpose for being here today is for council to be aware of this and to endorse us going forward with even more information and more work. There's still a lot of work and research to be done on costs and all of the details. Working with the municipal staff on where it should be located, what services are available, all of the details, the agreement between us and all of the details. But fortunately, as Anne said, there already is a template. This was already done in West Lorne in a very similar manner. So we've got that to work going forward. So today we're looking for council's endorsement for this project. For us to proceed with gathering information. We're looking for input from council on communications, how we will communicate back and forth, how we will report to council, working with municipal staff. And we'll do all the heavy work. Our committee will do all of the administration work and applying to Trillium and other local foundations. So at this point, there will be no cost to the local taxpayers. We're going to do it all through foundation and grant funding and local fundraising and donations. So we're requesting council to have a representative, one person sitting on the core committee. So we'll leave it with that. In the meetings that, as Anne mentioned, the meetings that we've had already, the second and the third meeting, it was a really good collaboration of community service clubs and organizations. Everyone seems very interested and keen. They need more details, of course, before they're ready to commit, but there is a good collaboration, including with the Fair Board, so that it fits in with their activities going forward. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that presentation. It sounds very exciting. And I think Roddy does need that, what you're about to set out and hopefully achieve. So is there any questions from council? Seeing none. Thank you very much for your presentation. And I know it's a good thing. And I know you'll work well together. Thank you. So, okay, we'll carry on. So I'll go to 9, statutory public meeting. A recommendation, please.
That the Council of the Municipality of West Elgin proceed into a public meeting pursuant to the Planning Act.
Mover, please. Councillor Denning. Seconded, Deputy Mayor Tellier. All in favour? It's carried. Severance application E41-23. A comment to Elgin County. The purpose of the meeting, please.
The purpose of this report is to provide council with recommendations related to authorizing municipal comments to the County of Elgin regarding County of Elgin severance application E41-23, as Elgin County is the planning approval authority for severances, and to facilitate lot creation for an existing dwelling which is surplus to the farming operations of the applicant at 22830 Kintyre Line. A draft outline of the proposed lot is attached as figure 2.
The planner's recommendation report. 2023-31. Welcome, Robert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council, members of the public. This is an application for a surplus dwelling severance. The property, as mentioned, is on Kintyre Line. The severed parcel in this particular instance is 1.86 acres, and that'll leave a remnant parcel of roughly 173 acres. The lot itself is axe-shaped hammerhead, whichever you'd like to call it. There are a couple of easements involved in this particular property. One is to the water well for ongoing access and maintenance of the water well, which is located to the rear of the dwelling towards the north. The dwelling itself is also serviced by a geothermal system that involves lines that quite often go out into the field and down into the ground. The field can continue to be farmed over top of it, but the owner of the lot will have to retain ownership, or sorry, retain access to for any future maintenance purposes of those lines should they happen to be in need of repair. Both of those are included as approvals that will be required from the County of Elgin. The request for the surplus dwelling severance is consistent with the provincial policy statement on surplus dwelling severances, as well as both the county and local official plans. There's no unusual issues outside of the easements that are required. The property itself is on private services, both septic and well. There's no livestock concerns with the proposed severance. The lot itself will be rezoned to a site-specific A38 zone that will recognize the reduction in the frontage because of the proposed shape of the lot, and the farm will be rezoned to prohibit future dwellings. Unless there's questions from councils or members of the public, that is all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Applicants, any comments? Public or agency comment? Councilors' comments? Seeing none, can I have the recommendation, please?
That West Elgin Council hereby receives the report from Robert Brown, planner, regarding severance application file E-41-23, comments to Elgin County Planning Report 2023-21, and that West Elgin Council hereby recommends approval to the Land Division Committee of the County of Elgin for severance application file E-41-23, subject to the lower tier municipality conditions in Appendix 1 of this report, and further that the West Elgin Council directs administration to provide this report as municipal comments to the County of Elgin.
Mover, please. Councillor Novakis. Seconded, Councillor Denning. All in favour? It's carried. So we go to 9.2. Zoning bylaw amendment, application D-14, 14-2023, recommendation report. The 2023-34.
The purpose.
The purpose of the application, please.
The proposed amendment to the zoning bylaw is for lands legally known as Block O, lots 1 and 2, Plan 68, and locally known as 257 Graham Street, see Figure 1. The proposed bylaw will remove the holding H symbol from the above noted lands.
So the plan's recommendation report, please, Robert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This property back in 2021 was rezoned from the former institutional use for the church to a residential zone and had the holding symbol put in place. The purpose of the holding symbol was to require that a site plan agreement be entered into with the municipality prior to the applicant moving forward with the conversion of the property. As part of the application submission, we did have the applicant prepare a site plan that showed the proposed parking layout as well as what the existing circumstances were on the property. Much of the change to the property obviously will be inside the building itself. It's being renovated for a total of 3 rental units on the property. It has access to full municipal services. There's lots of room for parking and there's also ample green space on the property to support those 3 units. Sort of partway through the process on this, and council be obviously aware of this to some degree, changes that resulted from Bill 23 with in relation to site plan approval actually removed all municipalities' ability to actually enter into site plan agreements on any type of residential conversions or residential developments for 10 units or under. So essentially, although the placing of the H on the property at the time in 2021 was quite appropriate, unfortunately, we're no longer able to actually enforce that condition. So we've got to remove the H from it and move forward. But like I said, we did go through the exercise of having them do up a site plan for the property itself. What's being proposed, and that the lot can accommodate what's being proposed on it. There's no new planning considerations. Usually removal of the H is just a matter of you've satisfied the conditions or you haven't satisfied the conditions. In this particular instance, it's kind of a combination of they've partially satisfied the conditions, but at the same time, because of the changes in the Planning Act, we can't really require a site plan agreement to be entered into. As such, the recommendation is removal of the H. Unless there's questions from council or the public, that's all I have.
Applicants, comments, any? Seeing none. Public or agencies comment? Council comments? Okay, can I have the recommendation, please?
That West Elgin Council hereby receives the report from Robert Brown, planner, regarding the removal of the holding symbol H-3 from property located at 257 Graham Street, being Block O, lots 1 and 2, Plan 68, and that Council of the Municipality of West Elgin consider the bylaw to remove the holding symbol H-3 for lands located at 257 Graham Street as presented in the bylaw portion of this council agenda for July 20th, 2023.
Have a mover, please. Deputy Mayor Tellier. Seconded by Councillor Navakis. All in favour? Carried. Okay, so we go to 9.3, site plan control, delegated authority, agreement, bylaw removal. That goes straight to Robert. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The last report was a bit of a segue into this. Back in 2022, changes to the Planning Act again required that councils across Ontario delegate full authority for site plan approval to staff internally. Site plans themselves are generally a technical exercise, and quite often most of the commenting is done internally. The review process, there's a lot of engineering that goes into site plans. Essentially, it's the final step in most developments. You see them with commercial and industrial, and you quite often see them with multi-residential. Obviously, with the changes, we only see multi-residential over 10 units. That delegation obviously has taken place, and staff work through various site plan agreements. Those no longer come forward to council. For the benefit of the public, that shift from council approval to staff approval, I would argue that it actually, staff probably take more time and are more cautious, knowing that we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing, bringing these forward, knowing that we have both the public and council concerned with what's going on with all these developments. So it hasn't, I don't think, diminished the process. One leftover part of the old process was once a site plan is approved internally by staff, an agreement is drafted, and then that agreement has to come back to council, and a bylaw has to be passed in order to authorize the mayor and clerk to sign it. A lot of municipalities are kind of moving away from that bylaw process. You can imagine we're coming to you sort of at the 11th hour asking for approval of something that we've already reviewed, we've already done the background work on it. So it's, to some extent, I find it a little unfair sort of for council, because you're seeing stuff at the very end of the process. So in discussions with the CAO, I suggested maybe what we should do moving forward is eliminate the need for that bylaw and make any necessary adjustments to the procedural bylaw or any authorizing bylaws to remove the need to come back to council for that. There would just simply be a blanket authority. The mayor and clerk would still be required to sign the agreements and register them on title. But it would help expedite especially simpler site plans. It would help move them along a little quicker to be able to sort of avoid that added time frame to write a report and come back to council. So the recommendation in this particular instance would be for council to receive the report, and then secondly, to direct administration to prepare any necessary modifications to either the procedural bylaw or authorizing bylaw related to site plan approval agreements moving forward, to not come back to council with authorizing bylaws for each individual site plan, but going forward, that would be something that would just be a blanket authority for the mayor and clerk.
Okay, thank you. You're gonna go with the recommendation on that one?
That West Elgin Council hereby receives the report from Robert Brown, planner, regarding elimination of individual authorizing bylaws for site plan agreement approval. And that West Elgin Council direct administration to prepare any necessary modification to the procedural bylaw or authorizing bylaw related to site plan approval agreements.
Okay, I'm a mover, please.
A
Okay,
question, Mr.
carry
Mayor,
on.
just
Yep.
before we get there. Mr. Planner, this is a process that other municipalities have already gone through.
Correct. There's at least 2 other municipalities they've worked in where they've moved away from individual authorizing bylaws for site plans.
Thank you.
Okay. Can I have a mover, please? Yep, Councillor Denning, seconder. Councillor Navakis, all in favour? It's carried. We move on to 9.4 zoning bylaw amendment. Application D-14 13-2023 recommendation report 2023-30. Can I have the purpose for the application, please?
The purpose of the zoning bylaw amendment is to consider a condition of consent for application E-19-23 by rezoning the retained farmland parcel from general agricultural A1 zone to agricultural A2 zone in order to prohibit any future dwellings, and by rezoning the severed surplus farm dwelling parcel from general agricultural A1 zone to restricted agricultural A3 zone in order to recognize the new surplus farm dwelling lot being created.
Okay. Plan's recommendation report. Robert, please.
Back in April of this year, the Land Division Committee approved the severance of the dwelling on this farm parcel as surplus. One of the conditions for that, as it is with all surplus dwelling severances, is for prohibition of future dwellings on the farm. And then locally, we rezone the lot depending on size, either to rural residential or restricted agricultural. In this case, the lot size dictates this going to the A3 restricted agricultural. There's no new considerations or under provincial policy or the local official plan or county official plan. So unless there's questions from the public or members of council, that is all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Applicants' comments? Any? Public or agencies' comments? Council comments? Can I have the recommendation, please?
That West Elgin Council hereby receives the report from Robert Brown, planner, regarding zoning bylaw amendment application D-1413-2023 13941 Coley Road recommendation report, planning report 2023-30. That West Elgin Council approve rezoning of 13941 Coley Road from general agricultural A1 zone to agricultural A2 zone and restricted agricultural A3 zone in accordance with the attached draft bylaw. And that further that West Elgin Council consider the bylaw to amend the zoning bylaw as presented in the bylaw portion of the July 20th, 2023 council agenda.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Navakis, seconded by Deputy Mayor Tellier. All in favour? It's carried. So we go on to 9.5, official plan amendment, application D 091-2023 and zoning bylaw amendment, application D 144-2023. Can I have the purpose of this application, please?
The municipality of West Elgin has received the above noted application for lands located on the east side of Furnival Road between Center Street and Downey Line at the northerly edge of Rodney. The subject property is designated rural residential by the official plan and zoned rural residential holding RR-H zone under the West Elgin zoning bylaw. The subject lands are 1.6 hectare or 3.95 acre in area with 171 meter, 561 feet of frontage along Furnival Road. The property has been vacant since the 1990s, but was the former location of a school prior to that. The applicant is seeking approval to develop the site for multi-residential purposes. The site would be developed on a private road and include a total of 4 semi-detached units and 32 townhouse units. Outdoor recreational and amenity space is provided along with several visitor parking spaces. Both municipal water and sanitary service are available at the property line. In order to proceed with the development, the following is required. 1, an official plan amendment is required to permit multi-residential as the current rural residential designations limits uses to single detached. 2, a zoning amendment to rezone the site for proposed multi-residential use. And 3, establish site-specific zoning regulations and implement the official plan amendment.
Okay, planners recommendation report 2023-29. Robert, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll also advise council that the applicant and their planner are in attendance as well, so they may be speaking to this. So I will be brief. The clerks outlined much of the detail on this. The development is seeking multi-residential approval for a combination of townhouses and some semi-detached units. The one sort of unusual point with this one is the need for the official plan amendment. Because the property is located just outside the settlement area. It's in the rural residential designation, and that designation typically anticipates development on partial services, and as such, it generally limits it to just single detached. When Furnival Road was reconstructed, there was the understanding that okay. I hope this is not foreshadowing of things. As I was mentioning, the official plan amendment is required to actually add multi-residential to the rural residential designation. Again, primarily that limitation is because of partial services. When Furnival Road was reconstructed, it was known that this property was going to be redeveloped and would likely redevelop for some type of multi-residential. So sewer service was extended to the edge of the property to accommodate that. And as such, the official plan amendment is actually supported on the basis that there is access to full municipal services, both sanitary and water, as well as stormwater. I think this is a good project for the municipality. This is adding certainly townhouses and semis, something that is not commonly built in a lot of smaller communities. Quite often the focus tends to be just mostly on single detached dwellings. development like this helps to promote or helps to allow for, as we saw from the first presentation, our population is aging. A lot of folks want to stay in the community, but don't have options to downsize. Developments like this will give our residents the opportunity to stay in the community that they've lived in, while, you know, certainly downsizing and putting those larger homes on the market for new families. The development is supported on a provincial policy statement because it's access to full services. It's intensifying lands that are already intended for development. Same with the county, and local official plans are very supportive of this type of development. The zoning of the property right now is in a rural residential holding. That's being suggested to change to a site-specific residential third density that would allow for the full breadth of uses, both townhouse and semi-detached units. The lot is being developed as a single lot. These are not being subdivided. There is the opportunity in the future to condoize this development for individuals to buy units, but it will remain as a single lot containing all of the townhouse and semi-detached dwelling units. So unless there's questions from the public or members of council, I will invite the applicant to
Thank you.
come forward.
Any applicants comments? If you wouldn't mind. Could you state your name?
Certainly. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and members of council. My name is Scott Allen, Allen with MHBC Planning. We're acting on behalf of the applicant. And with me today representing the applicant is Frank Van Boomen and John Spreed, who's the engineer on the project team. At this time, I'd like to briefly indicate that we express support for the findings and recommendations of the planning staff report provided by Mr. Brown. The planning analysis that was set out in that report reflects commentary provided in our submission as part of the application process. In particular, we concur with Mr. Brown's findings that the project would broaden local housing options to help meet the needs of current residents, particularly those looking to downsize and to stay in the Rodney community. Additionally, we'd like to advise council that we're looking forward to advancing this project through the municipality's site plan approval process in the near future in order to initiate this project expeditiously. Thank you for your consideration, and myself and the project team are glad to answer any questions council may have.
Council, any questions at this time? Thank you very much. Public or agency comments? Seeing none. Council's comments, any? Seeing none. Can I have the recommendation, please?
That West Elgin Council hereby receives the report from Robert Brown, planner, regarding official plan amendment application D09-1-2023 and zoning bylaw amendment application D-14-4-2023 12450 Furnival Road Recommendation Report, Planning Report 2023-029. That West Elgin Council adopt the official plan amendment OPA number 4 for the subject parcel at 12450 Furnival Road to add semi-detached dwellings and dwelling units and townhouse dwellings and dwelling units as additional permitted uses. That West Elgin Council here approve the zoning bylaw amendment for the subject parcel at 12450 Furnival Road to rezone the property from rural residential holding RR4 zone to a site-specific residential third density special regulation R3-3 zone. That West Elgin Council consider the bylaw to implement official plan amendment 4 to the West Elgin official plan as presented in the bylaw portion of the July 20th, 2023 council agenda. And that West Elgin Council consider the bylaw to amend zoning bylaw as presented in the bylaw portion of the July 20th, 2023 council agenda.
Yes. Oh, you're moving. Okay. So moved by councillor Navakis and seconded by Deputy Mayor Telly. All in favour? It's carried. Thank you. We're going to go into a 5 minutes break. We're in a break. Yeah. Okay, we're back in council again, and we're going to 9.6. Zoning bylaw amendment application 14D8-2023, recommendation report 2023-28. Purpose for the application.
The purpose of the zoning bylaw amendment is to consider rezoning Site A, C location map from agricultural A2 zone to general agricultural A1 zone in order to permit a single detached dwelling. In exchange, Site B will be rezoned from general agricultural A1 zone to agricultural A2 zone, which will continue to permit agricultural uses but prohibit a single detached dwelling.
Okay, plans recommendation report 2023-28. Robert, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When this proposal first came forward, certainly I gave this quite a bit of thought. This particular proposal, or a portion of this proposal, I should say, came forward in May of last year to council, requesting that the no build provision or the A2 zone be removed and replaced with the general A1 zone. For the purpose of constructing a single detached dwelling on the property. Now, as council is aware, one of the standard conditions for the severance of a surplus dwelling is that the remnant parcel that's created as a result of the severance is typically rezoned to prohibit future dwellings. The simplest way to explain why that's done is simply that if the dwelling on the property is surplus, then there shouldn't be a need to construct another dwelling. And effectively what this does is it helps to protect the farmland for future use and doesn't lead to sort of the process of build a house, sever it, build a house, sever it, build a house, sever it, which would obviously have a detrimental impact to the agricultural community as a whole. Now, the other thing I gave some thought to was the number of surplus dwelling severances that have happened over the years. I myself have been doing this for just over 20 years. And just some quick arithmetic led me to believe that I've probably been involved with somewhere around about 600 surplus dwelling severances. That's a lot of farms, that's a lot of houses, that's a lot of prohibitions that have been done on agricultural properties. And over that time frame, there has been the question come up, it's fairly rare, but whether or not that prohibition can be undone. Simply put, normally the answer is no to that question. That prohibition has to remain in place in perpetuity. It was put there for a purpose, and it can't be removed. The applicant, however, brought forward a proposal, and they were directed to employ a planner themselves and provide a planning justification report to explore the opportunity to consider rezoning the site A from the A2 back to the A1 to permitted dwelling. But because the property owner owns several other holdings in West Elgin, whether or not an existing site, another farm parcel that they own that doesn't have any dwellings on it, could be rezoned in exchange, taking it from the standard A1 to an A2. So quite simply put, what you have today is you have two properties. You have site A that prohibits a dwelling and site B that permits a dwelling. Someone could, certainly submit a building permit for site B, construct a house, construct anything associated with a farm, sheds, grain storage, potentially livestock operations. That's not what they would like to do. They would not like to do it on that site. Site A is a better choice. And at the end of the day, what you have is, right now you have two farms, one permits a house and one doesn't. What you'll have at the end of the day, if council approves the zoning, is the same thing. The only thing that will change is the location of the farm. Now, as part of any zoning application, there's a number of agencies that are circulated, and one of those agencies that was circulated was the Elgin Federation of Agriculture. I've provided in council's package the comment that was provided from the Federation of Agriculture. They also employed a planner to provide an opinion. I don't necessarily disagree with what the concerns of the Federation are. They want to protect farmland. I'd like to think that I've spent the last 20 years doing exactly that same thing. I've worked in the rural area for most of my life. I've lived in the rural area for most of my life. I grew up on a cash crop and livestock farm, so I certainly appreciate and understand the need to preserve farmland for future generations and protect it. I believe that this maintains the spirit of both the provincial policy, the county official plan, and the local official plans. It doesn't introduce anything new. It does relocate it. This is not something that you will typically see done necessarily in other municipalities. Not because they don't do it, they may not simply have been asked to consider something like this. There's concern that there's an absence of policy, that we don't have a trading provision or a swapping provision, I guess, in our policy. But what we're looking at is the spirit of the policy. And one of the things in PPS that it talks about is, municipalities will typically use the no build provision on farms as the easiest way to deal with it, to prevent the build and sever process or multiple severances off of the same farm. But there are other opportunities that they can look at, as long as they're consistent with and maintain the purpose of the policy. I believe that this does. I don't believe it's necessary for there to be specific policy developed here. The county and local official plans both do allow some flexibility in interpretations. And again, the main concern is obviously maintaining the original intent and spirit of the zoning bylaw, or of the surplus dwelling severance policies. And again, I believe they do. I won't go into a lot of detail. Again, I will just simply say this again. What you have is site A and site B. Site A doesn't permit a dwelling, site B does. At the end of the day, it's simply a switch between the two. You still end up with a farm that prohibits, and you'll still end up with a farm that permits. Where that farm is, they're actually both on the same road. The applicant believes that site is a better option for them to construct their home as close to their grain operation, and it's just better suited in their operation. I think this is probably something that may come forward again in the future. I don't know, it may not. It's something that is not entirely unexpected, given, as I mentioned, I've been involved with several hundred surplus dwelling severances over the years, as of other municipalities. And they may look at this, have cause to look at this as well. This is, I think, one tool that helps to both maintain protection of the farmland, but also helps to take into consideration the farming, the changing farming operations that are out there as farm operations become larger. I would note to council that the applicant's planner is in attendance and may wish to speak. So unless there's questions of council or the public, I will turn it back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Right, thank you. So can we have the applicant's comments, please? If you wouldn't mind stating your name when you
See if that works. Good evening, Mayor, members of council. My name is Paul Demchek with Batory Management. I am the applicant's land use planner that's been engaged on behalf of the client in support of the application. As Mr. Brown mentioned, we have prepared a fulsome planning justification report. There was an MDS analysis that went into this. My client and his wife are here as well in attendance this evening. I won't go over all the comments that Robert made in his very good presentation, but I did submit a presentation yesterday to the clerk. I'm wondering if that presentation could just be pulled up, if that's okay. And I won't go through it all, but I just want to maybe go to slide 8, if possible. That's okay.
Robert, did you send that over to me?
Yes. that would.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So just while you're pulling that up, I will just highlight to council that again, the proposal does involve a zoning bylaw amendment application to, and just slide 8, please. So the proposal does involve the swap, as Robert mentioned, of the 2 sites in terms of the zoning from the A2 zoning category on site A and swapping it with site B. So on this slide is a comparative analysis of both sites. Again, this transfer for the restriction for the residential use from site A to site B is necessary, in my opinion, to conform to the provincial policy statement. And I want to specifically just highlight on this slide that this is a net benefit to the municipality in terms of some of the sites, their configuration, location, and characteristics. So you can see that site B, which is proposed to be restricted, is larger in site area. It's also larger in productive site area of what is actually being farmed on the property in comparison to site A. It does have closer proximity to existing livestock operations. Both sites do not have an MDS compatibility issue, which again, we have looked at, but I just want to highlight that specific point for the benefit of council. And then further, you can see that site B, in comparison to site A, has a number of existing services that are not available. And as such, site A is, as Robert mentioned earlier, it is a much more appropriate site for a residential dwelling in this specific instance. So again, what you're getting on and what this swap is essentially trading for is a site that, in my opinion, is more appropriate and still maintains, again, the intent and purpose of the official plans, the provincial policy statement, which I'd like to just highlight perhaps just quickly in the next slide. And that's my last slide that I'll take you to. Slide 9, please. There we go. Okay, so we did receive, as Mr. Brown mentioned, we received comments from the Elgin Federation of Agriculture and their consulting planner, Planscape. So they make comment in their letter that lot creation is not permitted on remnant parcels created through severance, and state the applications do not conform to the PPS or the official plans. So again, notwithstanding that this application does not propose any new lot creation, I do want to just clearly highlight the following section of the PPS, and I'll just quickly read it out. The planning authority ensures that new residential dwellings are prohibited on any remnant parcel of farmland created by the severance. And I'll continue to read. The approach used to ensure that no new residential dwellings are permitted on the remnant parcel may be recommended by the province or based on municipal approaches which achieve the same objective. So again, this highlighted section clearly states the level of flexibility that's provided to the municipality, provided, in my opinion, that the same objective is achieved. This is very clearly stated in the PPS. So I respectfully do disagree with their consulting land use planner. There's nothing in the PPS in this instance which prohibits the proposed zoning swaps, nor is there anything that prohibits it in the county official plan or the local official plan. And again, respectfully, this is a net benefit to the municipality. Finally, as Mr. Brown noted, this is quite an extremely unique circumstance where you have a landowner that has multiple land holdings within the municipality. And I would suggest that, again, while you may or may not ever see an application like this again, this is a positive precedence to the agricultural protection to the benefit of the municipality. Other than that, I don't have any other comments, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions from council. Thank you.
Thanks. Any questions right now from council? So we go to the public or agency comments, and we do have one on screen, I think. Okay, that isn't Randy. Is it? Debbie? Debbie, can you hear?
I can you hear me?
Okay, can you carry on then, please?
Fabulous, thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council. As I said, I'm Debbie Van Den Acker. I'm a senior planner at Planscape. We're a consulting firm out of Bracebridge that specializes in agricultural planning. So I want to give you a little bit of context of how we came to be involved. I was introduced to the Elgin Federation of Agriculture in June when I undertook a training for them on the new legislative changes that may impact local agricultural issues and applications. They contacted our firm because Margaret Walton, who's the co-signer of the letter that we submitted, is a well-known expert in the agricultural planning world. She spent a great deal of her 40+ planning career focusing on agricultural land use and policy planning. So as I work closely with Margaret on her agricultural projects, and I have been doing multiple trainings with other municipalities on the recent legislative changes, I was available to do the training. And so that's how we got introduced. So it's a little strange that we're from Bracebridge. I know we're not local, but that's how we know the Federation. So they asked for our assistance in reviewing this application. So Margaret and I did discuss all of the appropriate documents, and in the letter, I note what we reviewed to do that. And it is our opinion that the application does not, in fact, conform with the intent or purpose of the provincial policy statement or the applicable official plans. So the policies of the PPS and the county and the local official plans aim to protect agricultural resources, and they're really clear in this case. The effect of this application is to circumvent those protections, allowing another residential dwelling on lands that were intentionally and specifically prohibited. So the issue of having comparable lands to swap and protect with A2 zoning is not actually an appropriate or recognized measure. I'll get back to the comment about the flexibility offered, but the PPS does not offer that flexibility, and EuroPs have to conform to that. So the policies are clear that the remnant lands of a surplus farm severance are to prohibit future residential dwellings. And so you've approved a number of those surplus farm severances tonight. So I'm sure you're aware that those are limited circumstances and they come with requirements. And so there are no policies allowing agricultural lands to be swapped to provide a workaround to this prohibition. So if you read the PPS, the policies are really clear about how and when you can do a surplus farm severance. And I know we're not creating another lot in this instance, but it does stand to reason if there was a way for large corporations, which is what the intent of these policies are, so that they don't have to be landlords. If there was a way for them to swap some lands to fit into that category, you would have to assume that the province would have done that, and they have not. So should the provincial policy statement be flexible enough to allow such a solution? And it currently doesn't. At a minimum, we would suggest that the county and the township official plans would need to be amended to explicitly provide the policies and information requirements to do that. So the concept of swapping lands, and I know it makes a great deal of logical sense, and I don't disagree. I agree with both planners, actually, a lot of what they were saying. The concept of swapping them in such a way creates this sort of dangerous and counterproductive complication for municipal approvals. It's very subjective. You don't have the policy structure laid out that says when and where and if this would be appropriate. And I would suggest that would be at the OP level, not at the rezoning level. So the staff report regarding the application states that no net increase in overall potential construction of new dwellings in the area will occur and that the MDS can be met. Absolutely accurate. We agree, no issue there. These are very comparable lands. What isn't discussed, though, is part of the intent of the PPS is the fragmentation part of this. So when we do an agricultural impact assessment, by the province's standards and methodology, you have to consider the fragmentation of the agricultural lands and the system. So in my mind, in my opinion, it's very clear that the province has set out that one original farm parcel can have one severance. That's the limit of the fragmentation that they are considering acceptable. This would, of course, put two houses on that original farm parcel. So I don't believe it does conform. So to summarize, it is our opinion that the zoning bylaw amendment does not conform with the intent of the provincial policy statement or the official plans of the County of Elgin or West Elgin. The rationale for this opinion can really be summarized simply by noting that nowhere in the PPS or the OP or the official plans is the land swap considered or described within the detailed policies surrounding surplus farm severance consents. It's simply not there. As it is not considered or described, the application cannot conform and a zoning bylaw amendment should not be approved. So aside from the policy conformity issues, I wanted to talk about two things. One, just in response to the policy that was read out by the applicant's planner. That's exactly what it says. But that applies to the surplus farm severance. And the intent is to have one severance, one dwelling on one farm parcel. So the flexibility is in the tool used to only allow the one. It is not in the allowing more dwellings. That's where I would argue there's a difference there. And so in the current climate of what's happening in agricultural policies right now, a lot of the discussion and the concern from the agricultural community is a death by 1,000 cuts. And as logical as this may seem on the surface of this application, this does represent one of those cuts. If this is to be approved in the next application, it's subjective again. And so that's not what policies are designed to do. They're really designed to be as black and white as possible. And I know there's always flexibility in there, but to protect the agricultural land. So thank you for your time and allowing me to speak to you today. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have about what I've said.
Any questions from council? Seeing none, thank you very much. And we do have somebody else that wants to speak. Is Mr. Andy Reese there?
Hello.
Hello,
Okay,
Mr. Reese.
Hello, Mayor. Well, I'm having a problem because of the power outage. I just sent my comments to the clerk. Could you ask her to read them into the record for me, please?
Yeah, if that's possible, we'll do that.
Is she able to get the email?
It's all right. She's just coming back to her desk. She's been trying to get you on screen.
Yeah, there's a problem when the power went out. I lost everything, so sorry about that, but such is the weather around here.
Okay, I think we may have it remedied, so.
All right, if
you
there's
wouldn't
an
mind.
issue, as long as she's got it, I can send it again if she didn't, and just read it into the record and we'll be good to go.
Good afternoon, Madam Clerk, Madam CAO, Mayor Leatham, members of council and staff. Thank you for allowing me opportunity to address council. Council members, this planning application is probably going to be the most important planning decision council members will make in their entire municipal political careers. I trust that council studied the application file. When I learned of the application, I requested Paul Clark, the planner for Elgin County, to research his proposal to see if it had been done before. Mr. Clark reported back and that after reaching out to the Ontario planners, he found it has never been done before. I assume that both our West Elgin planner and the proponent's planner did the same research and came to the same conclusion. Otherwise, the proponent's package would contain an example of a successful similar application along with the corresponding bylaw from the municipality that approved the application. Councillors, if approved, this zoning swap would set a province-wide precedent and have ramifications across rural Ontario for years to come. Mr. Brown, our West Elgin planner, is asking council in his report to wade into previously uncharted territory. Mr. Brown hints that council can justify approving this application if you just use flexibility in the interpretation of the PPS, Elgin official plan, and the West Elgin official plan. None of these regulatory plans have an allowance for a zoning swap. That is a fact. The arguments contained within this application by the proponent for justifying the proposals are opinions, not facts. Site A has had 2 previous severances and a new home on that parcel is not allowed. That is a fact. By approving this application, council would be setting a precedent with no way to remedy the unknown collateral damage that your decision will cause across rural Ontario. It may also result in an avalanche of requests to West Elgin Council to use even more flexibility in interpretations of the PPS, the Elgin Official Plan, and the West Elgin Official Plan. Do it once, and where will it stop? West Elgin, being a lower tier government, should not set planning decision precedents over the entire province. If council rejects the application, it can be appealed at the Ontario Land Tribunal, where the merits of the application can be ruled on by Ontario Land Tribunal experts. That is a more appropriate forum for a precedent-setting decision. If the OLT decision is also a rejection, a request for relief can then be made by the proponent. Thank you, council, for allowing me to comment on this application. But before I go, I have a question for all the members of council. While reading the proponent's justification report, did anyone on council see the glaring error on page 12? I know that the proponent nor Mr. Brown saw it, or it would have been addressed. That raises a legitimate question of how many other errors are contained in the justification report and how valid are the opinions expressed in support of this application. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Rees, for those opinions. The letter of opinion, I think we've had that with that last lady. So council comments. Thank you. Any comments? Yes, Councillor Navakis.
Through the chair, just a question to Robert. With the proposed changes to Bill 97 still coming out, am I correct in the understanding that if Bill 97 were to pass the way we've been reading it, Mr. Miller would be allowed to go through with severing another parcel off this land?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's a bit of an unknown question. At a very high level, I would say that's a possibility. The exact regulations and circumstances that are being suggested by that bill aren't kind of fully vetted yet. I know they're talking about the potential for 3 severances. I know there's some criteria that would be required, but what that final form would take. So the best answer I can give you is it's a possibility if that survives the way it is that could occur.
Thank you.
Any more comments? Just, I have one from the audience. If you'd like to come to the mic and state your name, please.
Certainly, Your Worship. My name is Leith Coughlin. I'm the Managing Director of Endpoint Public Affairs, which is based in London. Recently relocated to St. Thomas, so right here in Elgin County. We've assisted over 3,000 individuals over the past 8 years in terms of land use and other environmental regulatory issues, all with considerable success. I'm rising today to speak in support of the application and to address some of the comments that have been made during the course of the review of this item. I am in support of the application and would support both of the planning opinions offered by the municipalities planner, in addition to the proponents. There are a couple of statements that I'd want to confront just that have been made here that are cause for some concern and should be challenged on their face. So the first one that we talk about a policy structure. There is an important distinction in understanding the difference between legislation and regulation and policy. From policy, you also get guidelines. Policies do have flexibility incorporated within them, and discretion is granted. What is inflexible at law are statutes and regulations. There is very little interpretive room or discretion left there. So I think it's important to understand those nuances when your planner and the proponent's planner speak about discretion. There is also on the discretionary piece, an important standard that is required, which is applying tests. Now, what's interesting is that there is no comment from the County of Elgin despite earlier representations. And furthermore, I would underscore that there exists no central registry in the province which logs every single municipal planning decision. So the ability to verify precedent and what has happened in the province is a very difficult task. It requires tremendous levels of review and effectively delving into the minutes and decision-making logs of over 444 municipalities. I wouldn't question the rigor or the degree of research on the part of Mr. Brown or Mr. Damchuk, but I would in any representation saying that an exhaustive or rigorous search of that has occurred. Furthermore, if we also look, and we've done this over the last week, done a very significant review of Ontario Land Tribunal decisions and its antecedent or previous incarnations, the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal, and prior to that, the Ontario Municipal Board. And we would note that several innovative proposals and some far simpler than the one being advanced today have been appealed to at the tribunal level, only to be resolved before getting to an entire hearing. The reason for that being is that adjudicators in the province with planning review tribunals take a very dim view of councils going against the recommended planning opinion of their retained planner. Oftentimes, superior tiers or private individuals will appeal to these tribunals, and adjudicators encourage, quite frankly, with some degree of emphasis, for the need for there to be some sort of resolution before going to a hearing. In fact, one case in particular at which we examined was not far away in the county of Oxford in the lower tier municipality of Blandford Blenheim that involved a very similar case to what is being proposed here, but simply for the purposes of estate planning. Both Oxford County and a private appellant took that to tribunal, and then subsequently it was resolved with no public record of what the end result was, further underscoring my earlier point. When we speak and there are representations about the unknown collateral damage and the further fragmentation of agricultural lands, that is just simply not applicable here. And I will return to my original assertion when I talk about discretion in policy and the application of tests. You will not get a flood of similar applications of this nature because of the level of tests that have been exerted in interpretation of policy on this application. Therefore, for one to come back to this council and for it to be considered against this standard, it would have to fulfill the very tests that were applied by both the municipal planner and the proponent's planner. There was some comment, and this is my last point, with respect to Bill 97. It's important to note, and I would underscore this, that the Ontario Federation of Agriculture and some of its local affiliates, I'm not sure about Elgin's federation in this particular matter, but have advanced throughout the debate surrounding Bill 97 that represents a collateral attack on agriculture and in specific reference to the point on 3 severances on a piece of agricultural land. That is not in legislation. That is part of the provincial policy statement. So there is a level of misapprehension at that level in terms of understanding where things are located. Furthermore, the province is not landed. I'm not speaking on behalf of the province, but as somebody very well versed and involved on land use planning matters and environmental regulatory issues, they have not landed on their final decision with respect to that. I would just conclude by underscoring the following point. If you examine how much in the planning landscape has changed in Ontario in the past 3 years, it has been more systemic, legislative and regulatory change in 3 years than Ontario has frankly observed in nearly 30. And the idea that the province may have completed its complete reevaluation of planning policy and innovative solutions, I think would be a very poor assumption. So as a result, this is something that achieves every type of situation imaginable. It improves upon the agricultural position of the municipality. It applies appropriate tests that can be defended on objective review by an appeal authority. And third, represents no net loss to the municipality. We hope to see that this will be supported. And I thank you very much, Your Worship, for the opportunity to address those points.
Yeah, thank you for those comments. Pardon? Well, Randy, have you got the hydro back on and you're working now? Are you there, Mr. Reese? Well, Councillor Denning, you did have you did put your hand up. Would you like to address that, please?
So through the chair, certainly recognize that this is an issue that has strong feelings on both sides. And like the rest of the council, I'm sure spent a great deal of time doing our own research and preparing for this. And also to complement that was certainly all of the comments this evening on both sides of the issue. And I do respect the Elgin Federation of Agriculture and their point and their concerns. However, I feel as though this idea does exactly what the Elgin Federation of Agriculture is hoping to do, which is to preserve further farmland to ensure that it'll always be farmed. This proposal appears to me to create a net surplus of land that will remain farmland. Therefore, because of that, I am comfortable with supporting this motion.
Okay. Mr. Reese, are you still there? Okay, if he's not there, we can't just carry on in the middle of the thunderstorm. That's why he's not there. So I'm going to call you for the. We all finished speaking on this matter? So I think we'll go for the recommendation, please.
That West Elgin Council hereby receives the report from Robert Brown, planner, regarding zoning bylaw amendment application D-148-2023 for lands located on Thompson Line, Site A and Site B. Recommendation report, planning report 2023-28. And that West Elgin Council approve the zoning amendment for the subject parcels on Thompson Line to 1, rezone Site B from general agricultural A1 zone to agricultural A2 zone to prohibit future dwellings on the property, and 2, rezone Site A from agricultural A2 zone to general agricultural A1 zone. And that the West Elgin Council consider the bylaw to amend the zoning bylaw as presented in the bylaw portion of the July 20th, 2023 council agenda.
Okay, can I have a mover, please? Moved, Councillor Denning. Seconded, Deputy Mayor Tellier. All in favour? It's carried. Pardon? I'm going to take one break before we go on to the. the purpose of this application, please.
The municipality of West Elgin has received the above noted application for lands located on the south side of Gray Line to the east and west of Havens Lake Road. The subject property is designated Lakeshore area by the official plan and within the Port Glasgow secondary plan area. Current zoning on the property is Lakeshore Development, LD Zone, and Open Space Special Use Regulation 4, OS-4, under the West Elgin zoning bylaw. The subject lands total 23.9 hectare or 59 acres in area with frontage along Gray Line. The properties are currently vacant. A draft plan of subdivision has been approved on the subject lands to create a number of blocks for development of a mixed-use residential development condo tenure with some limited commercial allowance as well. The applicant has filed an application for a site-specific zoning amendment to establish a number of residential zones to accommodate single detached, semi-detached, townhouse, and low-rise apartment type dwellings. The zoning will also allow for some tourist commercial development and will place certain lands located within the natural heritage area or for servicing needs into an open space classification.
Plans recommendation report 2023-33, Robert, please.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council, and I'm sure the public are fairly familiar with this project. This has been ongoing for several years in this area, trying to bring something to fruition in terms of development, taking advantage of the Port Glasgow secondary plan policies in place. What is being proposed now is reflective of a draft plan of subdivision that was approved. It was a block plan. Basically, it created a number of large blocks within the development to be developed later into a mix of various residential and some supportive commercial. There's a total of 4 phases that are being proposed. Basically, it would work from west to east. On the screen, you see the purple. That is the initial phase of development that's being proposed. That would encompass a mix of 21 single detached and 21 mixed use dwellings, along with a mid-rise building that would be located at the southerly end of the purple section. Phase 2 is the sort of the bright teal section there. That will involve a total of 34 single dwellings and 14 mixed use, as well as a commercial building, again, towards the located on the east side of Havens Lake Road and towards the south end of the development. Phase 4 is the yellow. This would encompass 22 singles, 14 townhouses, and a community facility. The large yellow block that would be essentially right at the intersection of Furnival and Gray Line is where the community center for the development is proposed. And then rounding out the final phase of development is the blue, would encompass a total of 33 townhouses. This development has access to municipal water. It does not have access to sanitary servicing. However, what is being proposed in this instance would be a private treatment facility that was determined through an extensive environmental assessment. This would be located on the one of the open space blocks, the not teal, the other green, the sort of the off green areas. Those are all open space areas. And you'll notice that there's the sort of the large red line, red strip on the drawing there. That's a servicing corridor where all of the sanitary collection lines from the development will go down that corridor and then into the treatment facility that will be constructed at the that would be the southwest corner of the development. There was some fairly significant public involvement when the plan first came forward. It has been obviously circulated again out to residents. We tried to make as much information as possible available to the residents. A couple of the main concerns that still linger with this proposed development, and certainly rightfully so, is the development of the 14 proposed single detached dwellings in the again in the teal in the second phase there. Sort of there's a cul-de-sac that comes off of Douglas. There was a property that was purchased on Douglas. It's 50 feet wide and would accommodate connection from Douglas into a cul-de-sac for a total of 14 singles. That would not provide a connection between the balance of the subdivision and Douglas. That would only service the 14 dwellings proposed off of that cul-de-sac. So it wouldn't open up the entire development to Douglas Street. There would be a servicing corridor between that cul-de-sac on the lands to the north. There would also be potential accommodations as well for emergency access between the two areas there. And that would be there's a number of different measures that can be taken to gate or to put removable bullards in place in order to limit access. Again, understandably not wanting to open up the entire development to access to Douglas Street. There was also some concerns expressed by one of the property owners there that's immediately abuts where the road would be in terms of whether there's adequate room and whether there's setbacks. This still has to go through a number of site plan approval processes. It also has to go through a development agreement, which is currently in the works. And one of the things that will be looked at is what has to be done. And this will be undertaken in consultation, obviously, with the residents there. What that access should look like, whether there should be what appropriate landscaping or fencing can be accommodated. The 50 feet itself is adequate for a road. Typically, your standard width for a road allowance is 66 feet, but that anticipates not just a road, but also things like sidewalk, streetlights, and more importantly, servicing. You have sanitary water, hydro, bell, fiber, all of that. Those servicing corridors are actually going to be provided off of the red strip that will come into the cul-de-sac, so that the only need for servicing off of Douglas would just simply be access for the road. So that 50 feet only has to accommodate the road. It doesn't have to accommodate the full breadth of services that you normally would when developing a new subdivision. All of the zones that are being proposed in this have a holding symbol in place for various reasons, either for site plan or development agreement. There are 3 blocks on the plan that are located near the lake and within the Conservation Authority's regulated area. They have indicated support for the development. However, they have mentioned that block 12 and 13, which are again the cul-de-sac for the single detached dwellings, and block 30 for the mid-rise located at the southern end of the purple section there, still have some work to do to satisfy the Conservation Authority in terms of the setbacks from the slope and so forth along the lake. So that holding symbol will remain in place until both the municipality and the Conservation Authority are satisfied that all the necessary background work has been done. The applicant's planner is in attendance, so I won't go into a whole lot more detail on this. Much of the zoning in this instance is essentially kind of the sort of the next technical exercise. As a result of the block plan, there will be certainly some more things coming back to council. There'd be various removals of the H, development agreements and so forth coming forward for consideration and approval as well as this goes forward. I suspect this will be a fairly multi-year project that will take some time to build out.
Thank you. I'd just like to make one comment. And it's about supplying the 14 houses off Douglas with a 50-foot roadway. As we all know, and you suggested that a roadway generally is 66 feet. So I call that a driveway. And now, how many houses do you, what does a driveway service? 14 houses, maybe 1, 2, or 3, but I don't believe it should be 14. And the other thing is the sewerage. The sewerage at that area where they're talking is fairly near to 16 Mile Creek that goes directly into the lake. And if there is a mistake there, by any chance, that's going to go right into the lake. And the way the lake moves down towards Eagle, that's right where the outlet is, or the inlet for our drinking water. So we've got two large concerns there as far as I'm concerned. But that's all I'm going to say at the moment. So if we got applicants comments, then if you'd like to get up and speak in the mic, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. Again, my name is Scott Allen. I'm with MHBC Planning. We are acting on behalf of the applicant. And with me today virtually representing the project team is Marcelo Vecchio from Fari Developments, as well as the project engineer Bill Veach from MTE. At this time, we'd like to advise council that we reviewed the staff report prepared by Mr. Brown. We agree with his findings, recommendations. And for council's consideration, the proposed zoning structure is intended to effectively implement the development layout that was associated with the approved draft plan of subdivision, which was approved in 2021. And in particular, the land use pattern associated with this development was designed to align with the Port Glasgow secondary plan, which was approved on roughly 2015. And in this respect, we agree with the planning staff reports finding that the proposed zoning conforms with that secondary plan, and it supports development for a variety of residential, commercial, and open space uses as envisioned by the secondary plan. I won't necessarily get into much more in terms of the detail of the zoning itself. It's as Mr. Brown indicated, it's very technical, and I don't think that's necessarily why the public is here tonight to review this application. I would say, as was discussed, that the intent is to develop the subdivision in phases, and development would be guided by municipal development agreements and site plan agreements. And with respect, Mr. Mayor, to your comments, I would like to just briefly mention, again, Bill Veach is available in terms of the engineering side of things, but with respect to the 14 units serviced by the, as you refer to, the driveway or private access, that is something that we have certainly approved in London as a vacant land condo. For more than 14 units, and the 50-foot right of way, Mr. Brown indicated that is correct, that it's certainly not standard to municipal widths, which are typically 20 meters or 66 feet. However, that width is certainly in keeping with a vacant land condo access driveway effectively, where we typically look at 6.7 meters as the kind of pavement width, plus additional boulevard, that type of thing. So 50 foot is certainly workable that way. But your point is well taken, Mr. Mayor. And I will gladly answer any questions council has, and perhaps during the course of this discussion, project team can respond to questions of the public as well.
Any questions? Councillor Denny, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through the chair, and thank you for being here this evening. As you're well aware, this has been an ongoing discussion idea in our community for nearly 15 years now. And now we have new folks who are attempting to get this project started. One of the issues, in my opinion, previously was a lack of time and patience and respect for residents of this community to provide their thoughts and their concerns. And I know that we are well on our way at this point. But to your point about the 50-foot driveway, has there been discussion with adjacent landowners about mitigation of green space? Has your organization been reaching out to the community to develop relationships and to make sure that they're comfortable and aware of what the plan is? Because again, one of the problems last time was I do not feel that was not taking place, and perhaps that's why we're 15 years down the road and still hasn't happened.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and I am relatively new to the file, I will say that. And Fari Developments has been actively involved for several years now, as I understand it. If Marcello Vecchio is available, he may be able to shed a little more light in terms of what Fari Developments has done to date in terms of public consultation. And it's certainly recognized that further discussion with the public and with the community is expected as this project advances. Marcello, feel free.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Mayor and councillors, thank you. Again, my name is Marcello Vecchio. I am part of the development team at Fari Holdings, and it's a pleasure to speak here before you. Just building off Scott Allen's point here, we are doing our best to really communicate with the residents. Just, I guess, 2 days ago, we were out there helping. There were some trees that fell from our property with the wind and the rain. So we've been, building our relationships with some of those adjacent owners to that block. I just like to remind council, and Mr. Brown touched on this as well. This zoning application before you tonight is not sort of at that stage yet where we start talking about those site plan conditions of, road wide and whether or not we can sort of go through that block. We're prepared to work with yourselves and the public step in step and finding the best allocation and the best route that we can take. As you mentioned, this is a long process, longer than our involvement, and some of the councillors in public, I'm sure, have been there since the beginning. We want to see this come to fruition, and we're ready to work hand in hand with you folks and the residents on the ground to make this happen. So I appreciate it, and I'm here for any other questions as well.
Any other questions from council anyway? No, thank you very much. It seems that's fine. Public or agency comments? Anybody from the floor? Yes. You have to. You come up and state your name, please.
Mayor, council, my name is Al Willie.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Council, my name is Al Willie. I own the property on Douglas Line, 22-170 Douglas Line, adjacent to the proposed roadway, driveway, whichever they want to call it. My property line extends approximately 2 feet off of the north side of my dwelling. And I'm going to have 24 houses back there with constant traffic going through there. I can probably reach out the bedroom window and shake their hand as they go by and wish them good luck. And the further comments from you, sir, back in October, you had an excavator go through my property over my new driveway, concrete driveway, with a huge excavator over my septic system into the field, knock the branches off of your tree that extend over my property, limbs, rotten limbs off your trees fall on my out shed, crushed my shed. And this is what, July 22nd, 23, This was in October 22. I have not seen a face nor anyone from you people to assess the damage you did and any proposal to rectify it. You excavated the field behind for artifacts. You had the excavator come in, remove dirt from my property to fill the holes that they did. Those holes are excavated from my property. Dirt is still not rectified. When do you propose this? I have not seen your face. None of you have ever talked to me. And this is good relations? I don't think so. Anyway, getting back to the issue. I have done some measuring over at the lake there. And the proposal from the top of the lake bank to the south side of my house is approximately 45 meters. They are proposing houses directly west of my house to build houses from foundation up the same distance from the lake bank as my property. I have two neighbors that build their houses in the last 2 years, 3 years. They had to build a house on the existing foundations. They couldn't, they had a percentage they could exceed, which they did. One of the neighbors wants to build a garage. They cannot let them build a garage. And these people are going to build houses within that area. The proposed laneway or driveway, whatever you want to call it, is within the 75 meters that I understand the natural resources or environment, whoever's in charge of that, goes within that area. So how can you people or whoever's in charge stop these people from building other than on their existing foundations, and you're going to let these people build on new foundations? Previously in the past, other neighbors could not brick their house because it was within 350 feet of the lake bank I proposed. Or was proposed to them. They had to put siding on their house, they couldn't put brick on their house. And you're going to let 14 houses be even built in there. I'm not saying you're going to let it, but that's a proposed, sorry, my misunderstanding or correction. I'm a little excited, I'm a little nervous, as you can understand. That dwelling in my house is an inherited house that has been in the family for over 100 years. And I can see with this proposal going there that it's going to be non-existent shortly after this happens, which much to my future or my future daughters and that who want to inherit will inherit the place. It will not be a very good summer home for them. That's what I can say. But I guess that's probably all I got to say right now. I probably got more here that I haven't. Like I said, I'm a little excited and a little worked up over this, especially from the conversation that I got over this. And I don't want to say what I think. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the Lower Thames Conservation Authority will look hard at those new houses. Yeah, you have to have 100 years setback before you're allowed to build. And so they can't do one thing until they have the Lower Thames Conservation Authority's approval. So.
Although the first two houses that they propose on their drawings are definitely not within 75 or are within 75 meters.
I'm just telling you.
Formula you lose. I've discussed the situation with the planner twice now, and
Okay, anyone else want to?
David Gillespie, I'm on Furnival Road. There's two things that I see in here. One was in the original plans, the driveways into these properties were not to be in along Furnival Road or in the back. They were to come off of the other two roads. And the other one was low-rise apartment type dwellings. That's new to the and I don't see low-rise apartment buildings being back in that property, especially with backing up onto our properties. I would like that defined more on what they call a low-rise apartment building. I don't think that is the place for them or the land that use there. Thank you.
Thank you. Has anybody got any comments on that one?
I can fill in a couple of the blanks on that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
There will be a road coming off of Furnival, but there won't be individual driveways going into the townhouses that are backing onto Furnival. They will access off of the new road that will be constructed within the subdivision. So you won't see individual driveways out onto the county road. As far as the low-rise apartment, that will be located in phase 1 and will be actually west of Havens Lake Road. So that will be well away from any of the existing development. Most of the development that's proposed along the existing homes will either be single detached. Actually, primarily be single detached. There'll be a little bit where there's a couple that do back onto some of the townhouses along Furnival, but the vast majority of it will be single. Any low rise will be on the west, located away from those homes west of Havens Lake Road.
Thank you.
Any more public or agency comments?
Hello, Council. My name is David Chamberlain. My wife, Catherine Gow Chamberlain, and I have a property at 22-168 Douglas Line, which overlooks the beautiful marina and yacht club. And the only thing that I would like to say on behalf of the community in that area is I don't think any of us are really behind the idea of development. I think we're all excited about the opportunity for change and improvement in our area. What I'm hoping for, and I know that as council that this is the most important mandate you have, is to make sure we continue to have transparency and we have communication between us. And I think, and you can see by the passion that some of our community members have, that it's very important that we feel like we're being heard and we're being seen. As we move forward, I know that there will be a big challenge with the concept of the conservation zone as far as the area, the 750 feet or whatever it may be, that has to be set back from the lake in order for development of property. I'm one of those people that have a lovely house that my wife designed on the footprint of the original house, and we would give anything to build a garage because my neighbor, I think, has created mutant squirrels that comes over and chews the electrical devices off my Ford car. He's a Ford dealer. Maybe that explains why this is happening. But the fact of the matter is that we can't build a garage because we're too close to the lake. I understand that concept. We built within that zone, and rules are rules. But hopefully as we move forward, there'll be transparency and there'll be fairness so that all things can sort of get worked through. We do have concerns in that area, of course, with the fact that there are a lot of houses that there's the potential for a large number of houses in that particular Douglas Line red zone, as we call it. My bigger concern tonight would be, though, is understanding why the need for the variations on all of the zoning. And the reason I say that is one of the concerns I have with, and maybe this is a question that will come up in future meetings and so on, is when we're looking at townhouses and we're looking at those types of things, are we gearing it more as an Airbnb area, or are we gearing it as dealing with a need for housing and fair, realistically reasonable housing for people to buy their first home or to buy their retirement home or whatever? As we move forward, I just hope that as we go, we have lots of transparency and enough understanding and enough calm, as Councillor Denning pointed out, making sure that everybody feels like they're in the loop. So as I said, that's all I want to offer from our end of the county. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to speak?
Thank you, Mayor Leatham, and good evening, council. My name is Norman Miller and I live in Port Glasgow, 22167 Douglas Line. And basically, just about the sewage treatment plant. It sounds like there's been some changes as to the type of the system that's going to go in. And that's a big concern for me. Basically, Port Glasgow over the years has grown to become a tourist destination. And people come there because of the access to the lake and the water and the beaches and the fishing. And like Mayor Leatham says, the water treatment plant is just downstream from where the effluent of 16 Mile Creek is. And 16 Mile Creek, I used to work for the Ministry of Natural Resources in 1979 and 80, when it was called BDX, that's Provincial Park right there. And 16 Mile Creek is not a continuous flow creek. 16 Mile Creek, depending on the currents and the wave action, and the amount of rainfall we get, it can seal itself off sometimes for months on end. And it just depends. Nobody's got any control over it. I know the municipality in other years has inquired about the possibility of trying to have it dug out, but that involves fisheries and oceans and M&R approval and that sort of thing. So it's not something you could get a blanket permit to dig it out whenever it plugs up. So if 16 Mile Creek plugs up for a couple months and this new proposed sewage treatment plant isn't adequate or maybe has a malfunction, we're going to be sitting with stagnant water in 16 Mile Creek, which may make our marina and our nature trails and everything not as attractive as it currently is. And then if it does, this water that could be contaminated end up out when it does open up, it's going to go right in front of the marina, right in front of the piers where people fish, and then down to our water treatment plant. So I have a very big concern about the type of sewage treatment plant that's going in there. Is it proven? I've just heard rumors, and that's all they are, that the type of treatment plant maybe isn't as efficient as it sounds like it could be. So to me, I think the sewage treatment plant is still a big issue because that is a creek that people actually fish in that creek. And yeah, it isn't a continuous flow creek, so it plugs up regularly. So it's a big concern. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wants to come forward?
Take me a minute.
You're okay, take your time.
You want to have a seat in that chair? Would that make?
I'm
sense?
okay.
Oh.
Mr. Mayor, Council, I'm the landowner with the trees have fallen in my backyard. Somebody indeed came, took some pictures and said they'd be taking the whole bush out to accommodate 3 lots. But nobody has said, we'll come and clean up what is laying on about 1/3 of my yard. So I just wanted to say it was lovely. They showed up, had a look, took pictures, but I could not host a family event in my yard because I have trees. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there any more comments?
George Van Cedar, 22184 Douglas Line. I have a house out there and one of my concerns, because everybody else has, addressed the M&R problems out there. And but my problem is when I built our house, we got approval from the Havens family that we could run our tiles from our basement and our eave troughs out to the ravine behind our place. And I have 2 tiles that go across there where they want to put a service road in. And also there's a municipality drain that goes through there. I don't know if you guys are aware of that or not. It's a 2-foot municipality drain goes across there. How are they going to address that?
That will have to be addressed as part of the overall stormwater management. If there are drains coming off your lot,
There is, yes.
My suggestion would be, and obviously the developers online and that they take note of that. And that there's be some discussions between you and them in terms of how that can be accommodated and potentially incorporated into the plan, because we don't want to cut you off.
Right.
And flood it out. And as far as municipal drain's concerned, yeah, that'll, if any modifications, changes, relocation has to be done, that'll have to go through Drainage Act applications. So that'll be a.
Because that
public
drain accommodates a lot of people on the Douglas line.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
And also the other thing is the M&R had a natural corridor going on the backside. I don't know if that's still in effect on that hillside.
Have to look into that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to make you aware of that.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Lori, with Darren. We're residents on Douglas Line. This is many of our neighbors. What I wanted to speak on specifically as a mother and a grandmother now, is about safety. We came out to the country to live in the country, and a lot of us desire that lifestyle, and you're asking us to change it happily, which a lot of us are not. We do like our remote neighborhood. This added traffic on Douglas Line, which is a blind curve, and then going onto this narrow street into this cul-de-sac, I just see it as a hazard for children, for seniors, for campers, for weekenders. We have a lot of visitors to our neighborhood, but it's not exactly set up to just bring in a few hundred more. Like, you know what I mean? It's just not safe. And I would like to see some of those safety concerns addressed. And another one, it's probably a pipe dream, but we would like to have like a bicycle rock to go to Furnival Road to the stop sign, up all the way to number 3, because we use it, but we definitely use it on Douglas Line. Okay, so I just don't feel it's safe to accommodate, first of all, this cul-de-sac on Douglas, please, if you, that's what I'm talking about. What's going to happen behind our houses off of Furnival and Gray Line, or Gray Line, Furnival and Gray Line. I don't know. That's something else that's going on. I hope that there's park space and green space and sidewalks and everything else like that. But as a concerned citizen, we have a wealth. And I know I talked to Robert on the phone about it. I'd like to have some certainty of not knowing the correct questions to ask, but guarantee that our well water is still going to be good. Okay, because we're not leaving, right? So, but that's just kind of the things that I wanted to talk about, is safety in our neighborhood with our small numbers. That's what we're used to. Like what population, 32? 32. You're asking us to go from 32 to what? Like, so anyways, I just wanted to take a minute to talk about those things.
Okay, thank you very much. And I did see people taking notes, so it was well noted. Any more? Come forward, please.
Hello, Council, Mr. Mayor. My name is Debbie Van Cedar. Apparently, my husband and I didn't speak before coming here. When we moved and bought a lot and built our house 25 years ago, other lots were also sold, and then Mr. Howard Culligan bought the land. And Remy Bejan, Jeremy Bejan's mom, sold it to Mr. Culligan with the belief, or being told, that the land behind Douglas Line would be green space for everyone to enjoy. So that would be all the homes in Port Glasgow and green space behind all our homes, which would basically take care of many of the issues that our people are having. There hasn't been transparency with any of us in the past, nor has there been since the new owners of Fari owning. We haven't heard from anybody. Sorry, I'm shaking.
No, you're okay. Just take your time.
Yeah. With this proposal of 14 lots, there's a couple cottages that they're living in as homes. They have very little space for their backyard. Now they're going to have a house right on top of them. That's that's immediately south of our property. We live the 75 feet to our property corner to where the natural corridor is supposed to be. That's, so we're at 22184 Douglas Line. We're the white brick home there. So that takes out many of the homes of the 14 that they are proposing. If it's the 75 that they would still be looking at. There was also a natural corridor that Tammy Royale at the time said needed to be for the animal population to be able to access from the hillside down through to the lakeside, that we see constantly deer and their twin fawns and triplet fawns and raccoons. And so there's a huge animal population behind our home. It used to be green grass, but when I mentioned years ago with Mr. Howard Culligan at a meeting, could we just have the green space behind the homes for all of us to enjoy as we always did? My husband and I used to cut the grass and everybody enjoyed it. They played football and soccer and used it as a parkland. They watched the fireworks. They had picnics. They walked around there with their dogs and even some ATV activity. Also the cadets. I had 3 boys that were in cadets and they used to march getting ready for their annual. They used to march back there. So it was always used back there. So when I mentioned, can it be left as green space as it previously was the handshake that he was going to do, he plowed the field. And so it's been plowed ever since. Then they had to do the testing last year for the I'm trying to come up for the artifacts. And it's now we have weeds where so all the topsoil's gone and it's now sand on top. And they did plant some corn and it is growing, but there is a weeded area right behind Mr. Alphonse. Oh, right behind their property, yeah. So the 2 at the end, it's a big weeded area now that's no longer even cut. So we had like one grassy area. So I'm trying to have you picture a grassy area and then the crops. But now it's all weeds that are this high. So number one, I'm asking for transparency, better transparency. I'm asking for better input, that they would maybe listen to us as you can know, we're all passionate. We're all very close neighbors. And as well as I have safety concerns with that corner. There's people that walk their dogs. There's campground. You can get 2,000 people in those campgrounds around us. And they come with their golf carts and their young families walking and biking. And it's a blind corner there. You can't see. We have to be very, very careful when we go around that corner as to not hit anybody. And then there isn't even a turnaround at the end anymore for people to turn around. So people end up turning around in our driveway all the time that go the wrong way with a boat or so. So it just becomes, even with those little bits of things, it becomes very dangerous. So to have that much traffic coming down our small road, I hope that that can be taken in consideration before it's all decided. The other thing I would really like to know is what's the date of planning? This has been going on for 15 years of stress for all of us. We've been under a great amount of stress with it all. Mr. Leatham, yourself, that you've had many phone calls from George.
Many.
And
I can relate
others.
to exactly what you said right
Yes.
away from the start.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what happened.
Mhm. So I thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Mary Ann and I are new on the Douglas line. We have deer that come in the backyard, cross through and when there's hunting, deer go into the forested area that's right behind there where the trees in the last storm fell and covered a good portion of our lot. And deer will come in and hide in there and they're fairly well protected. I hear what sounds like maybe coyotes at night. And there's a lot of wildlife there that's going to be impacted by this. As an agricultural person, I have a degree in agriculture from Guelph. I would be concerned quite a bit about some of that environmental stuff in terms of you start putting sewage treated into the lake. Is that a primary, secondary, tertiary treatment? What's that sewage coming out? And then if you get a 100-year rainstorm, you're gonna have overflow, you're gonna have issues like that, and that's gonna impact fish, beach, people in the summertime trying to utilize the facilities. It's gonna impact up and down the lake and for water coming into the municipal supply. I think some of it's needs to be really looked at very closely. It's getting to be too high of a density, traffic patterns coming down Douglas Line. You double or triple the vehicles. There's no turnaround really. It's a 3-point turnaround. So somebody's laneway has to get used every time somebody comes for a tourist, or maybe they make a mistake. They thought they were heading down to the marina. Lineup of boats and trucks up the Havens Road over to Furnival Road, and 5 o'clock in the morning and things like that. Like, it's a very high impact in terms of traffic. And how is that going to be dealt with in the future? And then the golf carts, the road right now is not meant to handle either bicycles or golf carts. And some of that needs to be accommodated if we're going to have a community for seniors. I think that's really important for us to have some of these questions answered by the developer. And I think that needs to be put very succinctly to the population, because you have a lot of people who are not only physically impacted, but emotionally impacted. And I really agree with the mayor. You look at that entrance into that cul-de-sac, and it's nothing more than a big driveway, really. And to put all those houses in there, and then to have the impact of, you're pretty close to the cliff, and what's the erosion impact that could be coming in the next 50+ years? Some of these things I think need to be looked at fairly seriously. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, I noticed that it was all taken in and there was nodding. So it's not going unaddressed. Is there anyone else that wants to go and speak? Yeah, it's council time. Councillor Navakis, please.
I'd like to thank everyone for talking. It's been really interesting hearing your points of view. I just wanted to say, I've met with Robert about this specific development. And the amount of time that Robert has put into it so far has been a lot. I know that Fari and his team have been working to meet Robert's expectations. From what I understand, there's still plenty of work to be done, and that the comments that are being made were being listened to. And I think this is just the beginning. So I think for one, I appreciate the amount of work that Robert's done. And I know that the treatment plants are still in discussion, and there's been many that have been presented and that we haven't okayed, because I know that Robert and the municipality are not going to let a treatment plant in that is not acceptable and that hasn't been proven to work. I think this is a huge project, and it's going to change the face of what the lake is down there, and that there are many steps. And from what I heard from what Robert said, we don't have approval yet on phase 2. What we're trying to do is change the zoning so we can move forward, and so that you guys can continue to have your voices heard on what this development looks like. And so it's very stressful for you all. And like, I feel that, and it's just, what is on paper right now and what is happening is not necessarily what is going to be in the plan 2 years from now. What we're trying to do is get this project moved, and either the fortunate or unfortunate thing is a developer has bought this property. They are buying it to develop it. We have to work with them to develop it. Otherwise, we are going to have other ramifications in the long run. So I think it's finding a way to make sure that your voice and your concerns are heard, and that we are working with the developer as closely as possibly. And I just wanted to state that I have great faith that this is what Robert is trying to do.
Thank you. Any other council comments? Yes, Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, everybody, for coming today. It's really important that you were heard and we heard you and made notes. I think planners and everybody involved and the developers have made many notes, and our clerk as well, and the counselors. As you know, this has been in the works forever, and one of the top things people call me all the time about is development. We need development in this area. We need development. So this has been something that has been purchased. Looks like it's going to happen, but we need, as we've heard today, more transparency, more discussions, more input, what they want to happen. I see Mr. Vecchio shaking his head profusely. I think the message has been clear that we need more dialogue, more communication. So hopefully that has gotten through there. I trust our planner, that's his vocation, that's his job, that's what he's trained in, and that's what he needs to do for us as the municipality, council, and for the residents. So, and for the developer to bring something like this in. So once again, the main thing I hear all the time is please bring development into our area, please bring more homes. So we'll have to work together to make it work with the current residents and any ones who may have future or ones that move out there.
Through the chair, just to summarize it all, I suppose I say to the developers and the planners, make these folks happy and you'll make us happy.
Well, I thank everybody for their comments. I know we've all learned something from it, and some good will come of it. And what we've got to do is bring everybody together and work together to the best we can. So I thank everybody for their comments, and I'm going to call on the resolution, please.
That West Elgin Council hereby receives a report from Robert Brown, planner, regarding zoning bylaw amendment application D14 10-2023, part of Lot 6, concession 14, VLES and WS of Havens Lake Road, recommendation report, planning report 2023-33, and that West Elgin Council approved the zoning of the subject lands being part of Lot 6, concession 14, VLES and WS of Havens Lake Road from Lakeshore Development LD and Open Space Special Use Regulation 4 OS4 to Residential First Density Special Use Regulation 7 Holding 1 R1-7-H-1 Residential First Density Special Use Regulation 8 Holding 1 R1-8-H-1 Residential First Density Special Use Regulation 8 Holding 3 and Holding 9 R1-8-H-3-H-9 Residential Third Density Special Use Regulation 4 Holding 1 R3-4-H-1 Residential Third Density Special Use Regulation 5 Holding 1 R3-5-H-1 Tourist Commercial Special Use Regulation 1 Holding 3 TC-1-H-3 Tourist Commercial Special Use Regulation 2 Holding 3 TC-2-H-3 and Open Space Special Use Regulation 6 Holding 3 OS-6-H-3 to permit a mixed-use residential development consistent with the approved draft plan of subdivision, block plan, and further that West Elgin Council consider the bylaw to amend the zoning bylaw as presented in the bylaw portion of the July 20th, 2023 council agenda.
Well done.
Thank you.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Navakis, second. Deputy Mayor Tellier, all in favour? It's carried. So we go to 10, which is the adjournment of the public meeting.
That the municipality of West Elgin Council hereby adjourn the public meeting pursuant to the Planning Act at the hour of 6:49 PM.
Can I have a mover, please, to adjourn? Councillor Denny. Deputy Mayor Tellier, all in favour? It's carried. We're going for a quick break. It's the potential house, okay, right. Okay, we're live again, and we'll go to 11, potential housing development. 1147 Jane Street, West Lawn. Robert, have you got anything on that one, please?
I do a little bit. I did read through the letter that was provided by Don West Construction on this property. I've had ongoing discussions about the need for a record of site condition on this property. If anybody's going to find a way to make something work and work efficiently, I'd like to think I'm that person. Unfortunately, the way in which the legislation is set up through the Environmental Protection Act, if you are changing zoning from commercial or industrial to a more sensitive use, which in this case is residential, you're required to file a record of site condition. My hands are tied on that. The chief building official's hands are also tied on this. He cannot issue a permit on this property for residential development until a record of site condition is issued. Primarily, obviously, the concern is cost. Records of site conditions are achieved through various stages of review. Usually a phase 1 or phase 2 will usually achieve the outcome. And quite often that requires the spending of a fairly significant sum of money to get to that point. The problem is just the completion of that work alone is only sort of the first part. The second part is actually the filing of the record of site condition, which essentially is a single piece of paper you get from the ministry. That single piece of paper quite often costs as much or more than actually completing the initial phase 1 and phase 2. So it does present a challenge to redeveloping small lots like this for something. This would be a great project. This would be something good for that area. It would be a good infill project. But unfortunately, the developer, and I think there's been some recognition over the last little while and discussions back and forth with them that it's one of those things that you're just going to have to kind of plug your nose and do to move forward. It's unfortunate. It's certainly something that, council could consider certainly lobbying the county or the province for, possibly some offset dollars to be able to provide to people to redevelop these lots going forward. That would be great. There is sporadic funding out there from time to time, but currently there isn't anything really available. But if something certainly becomes available, we'll be more than happy to direct people. But for now, administration's hands are tied, as our council. Council can't waive this condition as a requirement, because the chief building official is gonna be stopped by it, even if you did. So.
Yes.
So through the chair, I just because I was reading, he was saying that new legislation had come through. So from what I understand, though, it is possible for him to go through with a phase 1 assessment, which is cheaper than a phase 2. And if an expert deems it safe, he doesn't have to move forward with the more expensive phase 2 under new legislation. Is that correct?
In part, I did actually go through the legislation again. And I had some fairly extensive training on this back in 2004, 2005, when this first started being an issue. And I did not notice any changes that have occurred since that original time. Now, a phase 1, yeah, if you complete a phase 1 and the expert concludes that, you know, nothing further is necessary. I guess just for background, a phase 1 basically is a record search. It looks at the historical information that's available on the property, and from what what was on that property, a qualified expert can make a determination that no further testing is required. Again, that phase 1 can cost a few $1,000s to complete, but it's that next step in getting that record of site condition. Even if you can stop at the phase 1, the filing of the record of site condition with the phase 1 information is what really is sort of the next step, and doubles or triples the cost investment to get that. Again, it's a single page letter from the ministry that they've accepted the information. So I've tried to look for some flexibility in the legislation, and unfortunately the way it's structured, it's not. There's more flexibility in provincial policy statement than there is in the EPA.
Through the chair, just because when buying a property such as this would have been a known expense, correct?
It depends on how much due diligence they did. If they reached out to us ahead of time and we're looking at possible zone change, it's pretty much automatic, comes out of my mouth. If you're going from commercial to residential or industrial to residential, I'm going to give you the heads up that you're looking at the need for record of site condition. And I will warn you that there's cost associated with doing that. And it's a deterrent. It is for a lot of folks, especially with these small projects, because it can add 20, 30, 40, $50,000, even if the property's clean, to getting that zone, to getting that check mark to get us to be able to support a zone change.
Thank you very much. Any other comment on that?
So thank you for all of your hard work on this, Mr. Brown. I shall not ask any other questions. However, I would say to my fellow council members that in the light of a provincial government that's looking to facilitate housing, this certainly seems to be an obstacle to repurposing some of these existing lands. I understand that the said property that we're discussing was a car wash. So we're not talking about a gas station necessarily or something else. However, perhaps we as a council could consider putting together a letter just to make our MPP aware of this situation, and that perhaps they could look into this a little further. If this is something that will help the provincial government get where they want to go with housing, I believe it will, and it will help rural Ontario. So something to maybe for us to look into.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Otherwise, it's just beware, do not buy commercial. Any other comments? Thank you very much, Robert. You've educated us. Thank you. Okay, I'll go to 12, adoption of the minutes.
That the minutes of the regular council meeting on June 22nd, 2023, and the minutes of the special council meeting on June 29th, 2023 be adopted as circulated and printed.
Can I have a mover, please? Deputy Mayor Tellier, and seconded by Councillor Navakis. Thank you. All in favour? It's carried. Business arising from the minutes? Seeing none. Okay, so we go to the consent agenda. We didn't have much reading in this council. No, that was I hope everybody had a chance to read, or has anybody got any comments on the consent agenda? See none. Other items? I'd like just to bring up the Elgin County Wardens Charity Golf Tournament. We usually send a team, and I do know that the money that's off that is going to be brought back into West Elgin, or biggest part of it, as a donation. So it's a good thing, and I think we should certainly send a team. I don't know how far we've got with that. But a team is usually 4 players, and it's nice to have, West Elgin represented. So I don't know whether we can go on a little bit further with that and get some names who's definitely wants to go, and we'll carry on from there.
Yes, thank you. Through the chair, email was sent to our staff. Typically, every year we budget for 4 employees to attend that golf tournament. We haven't heard anything, but Terry, if you could follow up with staff tomorrow. Is there any interest from council to attend golf tournament?
What was the date?
Hmm?
Date?
There's no date on my.
Yeah.
There it is. Yeah, right.
So through the chair, Thursday, August 31st, 2023. It's a shotgun start at 10:30 a.m. at the St. Thomas Golf and Country Club.
Would you like to be one? That's a start up. I'm not going to make a comment at all about my golf playing. In fact, it's one of my ambitions, and I've never done it yet. And if I don't hurry up, I'll be too late. Okay, thank you very much. Is there anything else on that? So we need a mover and a seconder to say that we've been through that.
That the consent agenda for July 20th, 2023 be received and filed.
Okay, mover, please. Councillor Novakis, and seconded by Deputy Mayor Tellier. Pardon? All in favour? Carried. Okay, we're going to 15, which is staff reports.
So the first report is for the municipal drains. We received a notice of a drain improvement for the Sherman drain. Any questions at all on that one? No? Okay. So the recommendation is that the Council of the Municipality of West Elgin receives and decides to proceed with the Sherman Drain improvement request under Section 78 of the Drainage Act received by the Municipality of West Elgin Public Works Department, and instructs the clerk to notify the Lower Thames Valley Conservation Authority as required under Section 78 subsection 2 of the Drainage Act for drainage improvements, and that the requesting landowner be notified of council's decision to proceed, and that the engineer be appointed under the appropriate section of the Drainage Act after the 30-day time period from the notice of council's decision was sent to the Lower Thames Valley Conservation Authority and OMAFRA has passed.
Thank you. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Denny, seconded. Deputy Mayor Tellier. All in favour? It's carried. So 15.2, encroachment agreement.
So this is been through, it's a by law enforcement issue that's dated back a couple of years now. So our bylaw enforcement officer has spoke to the owner and who has agreed and paid the deposit for the encroachment agreement for the fence that is on the municipal property. And just to note that the owner is aware that if the municipality does have to get to the water lines that are running on his side of the property, that fence will be taken down. It is not blocking the sight line triangle at all. The bylaw enforcement officer has been out. He's done all of his measurements and he's taken all the proper notes and provided them to me before I prepared the report to provide to you.
Any questions by council? No, I think it's straightforward, as long as the owner understands exactly what he's getting into. Okay, so I need a mover and a seconder for that. Oh, sorry.
That's okay. That the Council of Municipality of West Elgin hereby receives the report from Terry Toshif, clerk, detailing the events that transpired leading up to the encroachment agreement between the municipality of West Elgin and Mr. Ian Anderson Scott, and that the encroachment agreement be executed in the bylaw portion of the meeting.
Okay, now a mover and a seconder. Oh, okay.
Just one question, and
Yeah,
then I
sure.
think I'll be
No.
comfortable moving it.
Yeah.
If this gentleman sells his house to somebody else, does the condition transfer to the new owner?
He agreed. Through the chair, this encroachment agreement will be registered on title. So, yeah.
I'll make a motion.
Yeah, good thought, councillor Denny. Okay, councillor Denning has moved it and seconded. It's councillor Navakis, and all in favour? It's carried. Okay, financial and administration, organisational review.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Back in the winter during 2023 budget deliberations, West Elgin Council requested that an organizational review be completed this year. As the previous one was conducted in 2019. So therefore, 4 consulting companies were approached. However, only 2 proposals have been received. And I think, at this point, when request for proposal was sent to different consulting companies, it was kind of late in the year. Things like this have to be planned beginning of the year, I think. And that's why the response was very poor. So 2 proposals have been received. They have been evaluated. It is my recommendation to council to accept Linton Consulting proposal in the amount of $39,600. The only the resolution is not including additional $1,500 for travel. I would like the clerk to add that into the resolution that council will be approving. Are there any questions?
Okay, so it looks like we're okay with that. So I'd like a mover for that.
I'll read the recommendation.
Oh, yeah.
That
okay.
West Elgin Council hereby receives the report from M. Badura, CAO Treasurer, regarding the organizational review, and that West Elgin Council approves the proposal from Linton Consulting for conducting the organizational review at a total cost of $39,600 excluding HST plus $1,500 allowance for travel
Plus HST.
plus HST.
Mover. Councillor Navakis, and seconded by Deputy Mayor Tellier. All in favour? It's carried. Rodney, sewerage, lagoon dredging.
It's me again. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So again, so this is going back to 2019 where staff completed application process for the grant for the Rodney sewage refurbishment. In 2020, we've been very lucky and we received approval from the province and federal government for the total of $2.3 million. However, there are a few restrictions. Our municipality have to contribute $628,000 towards the project in order to receive the funds from federal and provincial government. So with pandemic, we were unable to proceed with the project. So therefore, but the plan is to start preparing for mechanical replacement at the Rodney sewage plant. But number one, what we need to do is clean the lagoon to make space available for when the plant is when we have to shut down the plant for, we're talking 6 to 8 months. That water
Has to go somewhere.
the sewer has to go somewhere. So we have to make sure we have sufficient space in our lagoons. So a tender was sent out. However, again, late in the year, only 2 contractors responded. I believe it was, sorry. Entech Consulting or contracting was chosen. So basically, what we had to do is come up with an estimated cost of the project. And in today's dollars, we're estimating total project cost, including lagoon dredging, to be for almost $4.2 million. We do have grant funding. We're taking grant funding into consideration. We are taking OSIF funding into consideration, but however, things are still unstable. The cost is still going up. We don't know what the number is going to be until the actual design is completed and response from contractors received. So at this point, we're expecting a shortfall of $425,000 for this project. Keep in mind that we still have 2 years until the project will be done. We're still putting money into our reserves, and we're getting OSIF funding every year. So I don't think, I am not concerned that the project can start. There's no major concerns. We're at the point where we have to award this project in order to start the work. So far, few things have been done. So there is, I don't know if you've been around Rodney Lagoon areas, there's an issue with Phragmites. So we had IPCC group attending the site. There was cutting was done early in the spring. This last Monday and Tuesday, they were there for 2 days spraying Phragmites. They're coming back again next week to finish the work. So that's been done. And then we're expecting dredging as soon as the plan from the contractor is received. Dredging will start probably middle of August, end of August timeframe. We are also, RV Anderson is completing basis of design. And the reason why this has to be completed as soon as possible is because the application process takes up to a year. So we're probably, we're not going to hear anything from MECP until next year, about the same time. So that's where we are. Not sure where the 600,000 is going to take us. The number basically was estimated based on the total funds available. Unfortunately, we can go up to $800,000, but at that point, we're gonna have to stop as due to funding. So that's where we are.
Questions by council? Well. Things cost a lot of money nowadays, I do know that. So could we have the recommendation, please?
That West Elgin Council hereby receives the report from M. Badura, CAO Treasurer, and that West Elgin Council consider the recommendation put forth by R.B. Anderson regarding the tender submission and grant approval to NTech Waste Management, Inc. for the dredging of Rodney Lagoons with the project's total cost not exceeding $650,000 plus applicable taxes, plus up to $150,000 plus applicable taxes for additional lagoon dredging and external consultant contract administration and site services for a total overall project cost of $800,000 plus applicable taxes.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Navakis, and a seconder, Councillor Denny, and all in favour, and it's carried. And our favourite one, 16, is accounts.
Yes, we do have money.
I was going to ask you if we had the money. Is somebody going to read anything out, please?
That the mayor and treasurer are hereby authorized to sign payment voucher number 7 amounting to $2,020,955.94 in settlement of general, road, water, and arena accounts, including EFT number 6799 to 6950, online payments number 1189 to 1205, and check number 26220 to 26237 and payroll period 13 and 14.
Okay. Councillor Navakis. And seconded by Deputy Mayor Tellier. All in favour? It's carried. Yeah, we're getting there, yeah. Consideration for items requiring discussion. And that is the request for community grant funding, Eagle Community Centre. Yes.
Through the chair, once again, a really great organization. And I think much like the Elgin International Club, when we were talking about fair and people coming forward, this is our opportunity. So my recommendation would be that we donate the same amount that we donated to the Elgin International Club, because we still have money in the account.
Yes, we do. $1,000. $1,000.
Second that.
Oh, so yeah, okay.
So that council of the municipality of West Elgin hereby approves a donation in the amount of $1,000 to the Eagle Community Center for the assistance with roofing repairs.
Okay, so it was moved by Councillor Navakis and seconded by Councillor Denning. All in favour? It's passed. Okay, so we, sorry?
Now Terry Lynn gets to talk more.
I got a lot, actually.
It's yeah, I'll tell you after when it goes up. Okay, 18.1, we're on bylaws. And bylaw 2023-63, official plan amendment 4-2023. Recommendation, please.
That bylaw 2023-63 being a bylaw to adopt amendment number 4 to the official plan for the municipality of West Elgin be read a first, second, and third and final time.
Okay, a mover. So Deputy Mayor Tellier, seconded by Councillor Novakis. All in favour? That's carried. Okay, so 18.2 bylaw 2023-64 zoning bylaw amendment 13-2023.
That bylaw 2023-64, being a bylaw to amend the municipality of West Elgin's comprehensive zoning bylaw number 2015-36 for property located at 13941 Coley Road be read a first, second, and third and final time.
A mover, please. Councillor Denning, seconded. Councillor Novakis. All in favour? It's carried. 18.3 bylaw 2023-65 zoning bylaw amendment 8-2023.
That bylaw 2023-65, being a bylaw to amend the municipality of West Elgin comprehensive zoning bylaw number 2015-36 for property at VLNS Thompson Line Site A and VLSS Thompson Line Site B be read a first, second, and third and final time.
Move, please. So Deputy Mayor Tellier, seconder, Councillor Denning. All in favour? It's carried. 18.4 bylaw 2023-66 zoning amendment 10-2023.
That bylaw 2023-68, being a bylaw to amend the municipality of West Elgin comprehensive zoning bylaw number 2015-36 for property located at part of Lot 6, Concession 14, VL, ES, and WS of Havens Lake Road be read a first, second, and third and final time.
Move, please. Councillor Denning, seconded. Councillor Novakis. All in favour? It's carried. Bylaw 2023-67 zoning bylaw amendment 14-2023.
That bylaw 2023-67, being a bylaw to amend the municipality of West Elgin comprehensive zoning bylaw number 2015-36 for property located at 257 Graham Street be read a first, second, and third and final time.
Move it, please. Councillor Denning, seconded. Deputy Mayor Tellier, all in favour? That's carried. Bylaw 2023-68 zoning bylaw amendment 4-2023.
That bylaw 2023-68, being a bylaw to amend the municipality of West Elgin comprehensive zoning bylaw number 2015-36 for property located at 12450 Furnival Road be read a first, second, and third and final time.
Mover, so Deputy Mayor Tellier, seconded. Councillor Novakis, and all in favour, and it's carried. Okay, so bylaw 2023-69 encroachment agreement 151 Maple Street.
That bylaw 2023-69, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an encroachment agreement at 151 Maple Street, Rodney, be read a first, second, and third and final time.
Mover, so it's Councillor Novakis, seconded Deputy Mayor Tellier, all in favour, it's carried. Bylaw 2023-70 agreement with Fahari. Yeah. Sewage disposable responsibility for Hope Harbour.
That bylaw 2023-70, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement with Fari Holdings Corporation for the purpose of sewage disposal system responsibility agreement, Hope Harbor, be read a first, second, and third and final time.
Mover, please. Councillor Navakis, seconded by Deputy Mayor Tellier. All in favour? It's carried. 18.9 bylaw 2023-71 agreement with Humane Society of London Middlesex for pound keeping.
That bylaw 2023-71 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement with the Humane Society of London and Middlesex for the purpose of amending the pound keeping services be read a first, second, and third and final time.
Mover, please. Councillor Denning, seconded. Councillor Navakis, all in favour? It's carried. 19, confirming bylaw.
That bylaw 2023-72 being a bylaw to confirm the proceeding of a regular council meeting held on July 20th, 2023 be read a first, second, and third and final time.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Tellier, seconded by Councillor Navakis, and all in favour, and it's carried. And adjournment.
That the council of the municipality of West Elgin hereby adjourn at 7:33 PM to meet again at 4:00 PM on Thursday, August 10th, 2023, or at the call of the chair.
Mover, please. Councillor Navakis. Seconded, Councillor Denning. All in favour? It's carried. Thank you very much.